Aexu's life has always been defined by a crippling, soul-crushing wave of social anxiety. Every time eyes turn toward her, she tries to vanish behind whatever she's holding, praying for invisibility. The stress becomes so physical that her very spirit seems to drift away while her classmates watch in absolute horror. This trend started in her earliest years, where even a simple birthday wish felt like a mountain she couldn't climb. Little Aexu would regularly collapse from the sheer weight of being noticed, leaving her playmates in a state of total panic. By junior high, the classroom became a battlefield where she desperately begged the universe not to let the teacher call her name. When the inevitable happens, her panicked scramble to stand up sends her chair crashing to the floor in a loud, clumsy mess. She stands trembling as the class erupts in laughter, her face burning with the heat of 1,000 suns. Attempting to read aloud, her complexion turns a terrifying shade of purple as her lungs struggle to find air. The pressure finally peaks, and she hits the floor with a heavy bang, her consciousness checking out once again. High school offers no sanctuary, especially when a stern coach demands that every single student participate in the grueling sports festival. Aexu is paralyzed with fear when she is singled out and ordered to perform the high jump in front of the entire school. The whistle blows, signaling the start of a public nightmare she is forced to endure. Surrounded by the deafening cheers of a massive crowd, her heart hammers against her ribs like a trapped bird. She takes off in a desperate sprint, her vision blurring as she tries to focus on the task ahead. As she reaches the bar, her legs give out from the overwhelming stress of being watched. She crashes into the mat face first, completely unconscious before she even stops moving. Her coach is left frantic, weeping as he carries her limp body away to wait for an ambulance. Even in university, a simple group discussion turns into a high-stakes confrontation that she is ill-equipped to handle. When her peers begin to argue, Aexu can only stammer in the background, her social battery completely drained. To avoid the agony of further interaction, she retreats into the night, finishing the entire group's workload by herself in the dark. 5 days later, she finds herself in a hospital bed, physically broken but relieved that the social ordeal is finally over. Having finally graduated, she accepts her fate as a solitary introvert, realizing that her only path to peace is staying far away from the spotlight. After graduation, Aexu lands what she believes is the perfect solitary role as a creative designer. Her workspace is a personal sanctuary dedicated to her successful line of Party-chan collectible toys. These intricate figures are trendy blind box collectibles designed specifically for the adult market. Unfortunately, even a dream job requires enduring the one thing she hates most: the mandatory weekly team meeting. Her manager, Fiona, takes the floor to kick off the professional briefing. Aexu reluctantly stands up, her heart racing as all eyes in the room turn toward her. She adjusts her glasses and takes a deep breath, determined to maintain her professional composure without fainting. She prepares the presentation file, ready to lead the team through her latest design concepts. Stepping up to the board, she begins her technical walkthrough for the gathered staff. The presentation is exhaustive, starting with a detailed table of contents to set the stage. She meticulously breaks down the data and design metrics for the first few slides. As the clock ticks by, her colleagues begin to feel the weight of the 99-slide deck. Aexu finally finishes the last slide, feeling her sanity levels nearly depleted from the social exertion. Just as she thinks she's safe, Fiona interrupts to discuss a critical shift in the project's direction. To combat a recent drop in sales, the manager announces a mandatory cross-departmental collaboration. The news hits Aexu like a physical shock, her mental energy plummeting at the thought of teamwork. Despite her internal panic, she forces out a professional confirmation to her supervisor. The stress proves too much, leaving her in a dazed state as her coworkers look on with concern. She sits frozen in her chair, the daunting prospect of constant coordination swirling through her mind. Later, she slowly comes to her senses, still slumped over her desk in the quiet office. She looks up at her monitor, finding comfort in the familiar digital face of her creation. Surrounded by her designs, she feels a brief moment of peace before her hunger sets in. She cautiously stands up, hoping to slip out for a meal without any social friction. Across the room, she spots the vibrant marketing specialist, Zhiyi, holding court with a group of colleagues. Terrified of being drawn into the conversation, Aexu immediately drops back into her seat. She attempts a stealthy exit, inching her office chair away from the bustling crowd. Seeing a clear path, she makes a desperate dash toward the exit to avoid any more interaction. She reaches the hallway, physically drained and sweating from the sheer effort of avoiding her peers. She waits for the elevator, relieved to see only strangers waiting for the next car. She steps inside, keeping her head down to blend in with the other commuters. A sigh of relief escapes her as the doors begin to slide shut on her stressful morning. Suddenly, a hand darts between the closing doors, forcing the elevator to stay open. The charismatic Zhiyi steps inside, radiating a bright energy that fills the small space. Aexu frantically stares at her phone, desperately hoping to remain invisible. Zhiyi spots the Party-chan charm on the phone and immediately strikes up a conversation about the brand. Paralyzed by the sudden attention, Aexu's mind repeats a desperate mantra for the interaction to end. The marketing specialist leans in, offering genuine praise for the technical artistry behind the design series. The tension peaks as Zhiyi reveals she knows exactly who she's talking to. Aexu feels her social batteries hitting zero, begging the elevator to move faster. The floor indicator seems to mock her, ticking upward with agonizing slowness. The moment the doors open, Aexu sprints out like a professional athlete. She disappears in a literal cloud of dust, leaving the other passengers in a state of confusion. Zhiyi watches her go, a knowing and intrigued expression crossing her face. By early afternoon, the clock shows that the workday is far from over. Back at her desk, Aexu nurses a stomachache brought on by a cold lunch and high anxiety. She wilts over her workstation, wishing she could simply vanish into the upholstery. Her peace is shattered when Fiona suddenly appears to deliver a final professional update. Aexu jumps in shock, her face pale as she faces her manager once again. Fiona introduces the specific marketing partner assigned to work directly at Aexu's side. It's Zhiyi, who arrives with a friendly smile and a peace offering of iced coffee. The specialist suggests moving to a more open workspace to facilitate their new technical partnership. She enthusiastically guides Aexu toward their new collaborative station. Within minutes, Zhiyi has already packed up the designer's belongings to ensure a smooth transition. The sudden shift in her environment causes Aexu's physical symptoms to flare up again. As she is led toward the new desk, her strength begins to fail her. Overwhelmed by the proximity and the pressure, Aexu's world tilts as she begins to lose consciousness. She collapses entirely, her face flushing a deep crimson as her system finally shuts down from the stress. The city sleeps under a crescent moon as the office lights stay dim. Aexu lies awake, her mind racing with workplace anxiety. Her eyes are heavy with the weight of social burnout. A cheerful text from Zhiyi confirms the nightmare. She's coming to pick her up. Terrified, Aexu plots to flee her home before the sun rises. She sets a barrage of alarms to ensure she beats her colleague to the punch. Sleep finally takes her, fueled by a desperate need for solitude. Morning arrives, but her bloodshot eyes reveal a night without rest. She sits up, already drained before the workday even begins. The local coffee shop hums with early morning energy. At the office, Aexu rehearses her missed message, excuse like a script. Her heart stops when Zhiyi appears at the elevator, hours ahead of schedule. Zhiyi closes the distance, pinning her against the wall with intense energy. The marketing specialist asks point-blank if she's being avoided. Aexu's brain short-circuits under the direct confrontation. She stammers out her prepared lie while avoiding eye contact. Zhiyi scans her face, searching for the truth behind the awkwardness. Relieved, Zhiyi laughs it off, celebrating their lucky encounter. She leads Aexu toward the new workstation, chattering about breakfast. They reach the marketing floor, Zhiyi's natural habitat. Aexu stares in horror at the crowded, bustling department. The team greets their star specialist with high-energy cheers. Curiosities peak as the group spots the reclusive designer. Aexu watches from the sidelines, amazed by Zhiyi's effortless popularity. Zhiyi shines like a beacon, the human embodiment of the party-chan toy line. Aexu's designer brain begins crafting a fantasy world around her muse. Zhiyi feels the weight of Aexu's unblinking professional gaze. Realizing her lapse, Aexu retreats behind her coffee cup in shame. Zhiyi wonders what prompted such an intense look from her partner. The introduction begins as Zhiyi gathers the team's attention. She announces their 2-month collaboration with a friendly gesture. The marketing staff bombards Aexu with questions about her art. Overwhelmed by the sudden attention, Aexu struggles to remain upright. The final blow lands when Zhiyi suggests an immediate welcome party. Social battery depleted, Aexu collapses onto the floor. Hours later, she hides in the silence of the office restroom. Her phone shows the workday has long since ended. She cautiously peeks out, praying the coast is finally clear. Zhiyi is waiting right there, shattering Aexu's hope of escape. The designer realizes she can't hide from this persistent partnership. Zhiyi explains the team is already waiting at a nearby izakaya. She stayed behind purely to ensure Aexu wouldn't be left out. Aexu's mind fills with terrifying images of forced social drinking. Determination flickers as she decides to reclaim her personal time. She squares her shoulders, preparing to deliver a firm refusal. The words sit on the edge of her tongue, ready to break free. She finally shouts her rejection, standing her ground for once. Zhiyi playfully shuts her down, leaving Aexu defeated once again. Coworkers swarm Aexu, forcing a celebratory party hat onto her head. Zhiyi drags a terrified Aexu into a restaurant that is anything but small. Zhiyi leans in close, promising Aexu will fall in love with the menu. The marketer enthusiastically presents a platter of cheese balls and fried chicken. Feeling like an outsider, Aexu watches the team bond over the meal. Disguised as a mushroom, Aexu attempts to sneak toward the exit. A sudden hand on her shoulder halts her escape plan instantly. Zhiyi plants the designer into the seat of honor right in the middle. Aexu eyes the beverages suspiciously, fearing another hidden agenda. Zhiyi presents 2 drinks, warning that the juice and cocktail look identical. Aexu wonders if Zhiyi is actually being considerate or just playing a game. The entire marketing team erupts into a thunderous welcome cheer. Realization hits Aexu that she's been successfully trapped in the spotlight. She takes a sip, noting a surprisingly sharp kick in the flavor. A painful memory of a ruined cake suddenly flashes through her mind. Young Aexu stands frozen in shame as her teacher delivers a harsh scolding. The childhood version of herself looks down, saddened that her help caused trouble. Back in reality, Aexu stuffs her face to avoid any further social interaction. She listens quietly as Zhiyi engages the rest of the team in lively gossip. The group discusses office scandals while Aexu's intoxication level rises. When asked about her romantic preferences, Zhiyi gives a vague, playful answer. Zhiyi leans over, admitting she prefers someone exactly like Aexu. Aexu. The designer panics as Zhiyi pulls her into a sudden, high-energy embrace. Desperate to shift focus, Aexu quickly compliments Zhiyi's glass earrings. Aexu drinks more to cope, her vision beginning to blur as she checks her phone. She reflects on the exhausting, high-energy lifestyles of her extroverted colleagues. Her mind wanders to a vibrant fantasy world featuring the Party-chan mascot. Now heavily intoxicated, Aexu feels a strange, uncontrollable urge to speak up. Zhiyi notices the designer's intense gaze and flushed expression. The marketer offers a warm, encouraging smile to her quiet partner. To everyone's shock, Aexu stands up to address the entire table. Brandishing her sketchbook, Aexu demands attention for her new product line. She grabs Zhiyi's face, passionately explaining the versatility of her designs. The designer continues her drunken pitch with newfound frantic energy. Aexu declares her mission to show the world the brand's unique side. Coworkers pivot to professional mode, critiquing her designs based on market trends. Aexu fights back, arguing that chasing trends sacrifices true artistic value. Her social battery drains rapidly as she defends her creative choices. A teammate questions the originality of the design, causing Aexu to falter. Completely spent, the designer collapses directly into Zhiyi's lap. Zhiyi smiles down at the sleeping Aexu, impressed by her hidden passion. Zhiyi struggles to guide a completely incoherent Aexu into her apartment as the designer leans heavily on her support. With a gentle touch, Zhiyi manages to get her senior settled onto the bed so she can rest. Aexu gazes up with a dazed, glassy-eyed expression, her mind clearly lost in a drunken fog. Just as Zhiyi turns to fetch some water, Aexu suddenly bolts upright, looking more confused than ever. The designer pulls out her phone, looking at Zhiyi through the camera lens as if she's trying to identify a target. Frustration sets in for Aexu as she tries to scan Zhiyi's face, wondering why the QR code won't register. She reaches out to grab Zhiyi's chin, convinced she's dealing with a malfunctioning vending machine that won't give her water. Zhiyi can't help but be amused by the sheer absurdity of the situation, deciding to play along with the designer's fantasy. Aexu tries to force coins into the younger girl's mouth, determined to pay for her drink one way or another. Catching her breath, Zhiyi playfully asks if the senior is just putting on an act to tease her. Tears well up in Aexu's eyes as she complains about being bullied at the office and during their late-night sessions. Behind her glasses, Aexu's gaze turns sharp and intense as she locks eyes with her partner. Before Zhiyi can react, Aexu lunges forward and grabs her arm with surprising strength. In one swift motion, Zhiyi is pulled down onto the mattress, caught completely off guard by the sudden move. Aexu towers over her with a determined look, declaring that it's time for some serious punishment. Zhiyi lies back, watching the designer's animated rant and thinking about how much she talks when the alcohol takes over. Aexu remains in a daze, clutching at her clothes while her mind races through its next erratic thought. Suddenly, she pulls a miniature doll dress from her bag, demanding that they begin a professional costume fitting. Zhiyi can only watch in confusion as the senior begins to direct her like a lead designer at a high-stakes fashion show. When Zhiyi hesitates, Aexu's confidence crumbles, and she laments that she's far too boring for anyone to want to play with. A heartbreaking memory flashes through her mind of a lonely childhood spent practicing social cues with a circle of stuffed animals. Seeing the raw vulnerability on display, Zhiyi realizes how much this professional bond means to the isolated designer. She shakes off her exhaustion and fires herself up, ready to give this modeling session her absolute all. The apartment transforms into a frantic creative studio as they test out various outfits and poses for the new product line. Zhiyi strikes a dynamic ballet pose, while Aexu critiques her form with the precision of a master figure sculptor. Light spills out from the apartment window late into the night, as the two continue their intense artistic collaboration. Aexu leans in close to inspect the model's features, praising her as a perfect angel for the project. Zhiyi is stunned into silence by the sheer intensity of Aexu's professional passion. Holding Zhiyi's hands firmly, Aexu confesses that she has been a devoted follower of the Party-chan brand for a long time. She points toward a massive collection of blind box figures, showcasing her lifelong dedication to the IP. With tears in her eyes, Aexu expresses her dream of working together to make their project the #1 brand in the world. She declares with fiery determination that she wants to be the mother who brings this character to life for everyone to see. The burst of energy fades instantly as Aexu stares blankly into space, her battery finally hitting zero. Without another word, the designer collapses onto the floor, surrounded by a mountain of clothes and sketches. At the crack of dawn, a sharp alarm rings out from a phone decorated with a Party-chan charm. Zhiyi wakes up on the bed, feeling the physical toll of the chaotic night they just endured. She looks over at the sleeping designer and softly suggests she stay in bed a little longer to recover. Later that morning, Aexu sprints through the company hallway in a total panic as the memories of her drunken behavior come rushing back. She reaches the quiet corridor outside Fiona's office, dreading the professional fallout of her actions. Masked up and hiding behind a large potted plant, Aexu prepares to end the collaboration out of sheer embarrassment. The sharp clicking of high heels echoes through the hall, signaling the arrival of the boss. Fiona walks toward her office, completely unaware of the designer lurking in the shadows. Aexu tries to psych herself up to step out and face the music, but her courage fails her at the last second. She ducks back into hiding the moment Fiona glances in her direction, feeling like a total coward. Retreating to a nearby convenience store, Aexu hopes to stay out of sight while she grabs a quick breakfast. She stands awkwardly outside the shop, trying to look as inconspicuous as possible in her oversized jacket. Nearby, Zhiyi finds herself cornered by Ruixi, a pushy finance supervisor who won't take no for an answer. Ruixi leans in close, pressuring Zhiyi to cancel her plans and join her for a lunch meeting instead. Aexu watches the uncomfortable scene unfold from the sidelines, realizing her partner is in trouble. Spotting her escape, Zhiyi's face lights up as she calls out to the designer with exaggerated enthusiasm. Zhiyi lunges forward and clings to Aexu, begging for her senior to save her from the awkward conversation. Using the designer as a human shield, Zhiyi introduces Aexu as her darling colleague to finally shut down the supervisor's advances. Aexu stands frozen in absolute horror, her hand clamped over her mouth as Zhiyi whispers a desperate plea to keep their cover and just play along. Ruixi narrows her eyes in suspicion, judging the designer's plain appearance and questioning how someone with zero fashion sense could possibly be Zhiyi's partner. Maintaining the charade, Zhiyi leans in close to slide a pair of glasses onto Aexu's face, casually mentioning that they were left at her place this morning. The implication hits Ruixi like a ton of bricks, her mind spiraling as she wonders if the two are already living together. With a final, polite wave, Zhiyi leads the way out, leaving a completely stunned Ruixi standing in the middle of the store. Before she disappears, Aexu casts one final, haunting glare back that sends a chill down Ruixi's spine, making the supervisor wonder if she's in actual danger. Once they are clear of the threat, Zhiyi pulls the trembling designer into a protective side hug, while Ruixi beats a hasty retreat. Back at the office, the atmosphere is heavy as Aexu sits enveloped in a dark aura of misery, while her colleagues chat nearby. Her internal persona has completely shattered, leaving her curled up in her chair and wishing for the floor to swallow her whole. A cheerful coworker breaks the silence, approaching with a bright smile to offer helpful references for the current proposal. The social pressure intensifies as another colleague enthusiastically offers to calculate an auspicious launch date for the new design. Soon, the entire marketing team is surrounding Aexu's desk, eagerly inviting her out for a group shopping trip to find new inspiration. The lively moment is cut short when Fiona enters the room, her expression serious as she holds up her phone and calls for attention. The room goes silent as Fiona reveals she has seen Aexu's application to transfer out of the department, leaving the coworkers in a state of total shock. Aexu feels like she's been struck by lightning, her secret desire to escape now laid bare in front of the very people she was trying to avoid. Her mind flashes through the chaotic events of the past few days, from the drunken party to the darling charade, realizing how deep she's buried herself. Accepting her social defeat, she imagines herself ascending to the heavens, ready to pass away peacefully, rather than face the awkwardness. Zhiyi watches the designer's mental collapse with a look of deep concern, realizing how much the public outing has affected her. Stuttering and unable to form a coherent sentence, Aexu can only stare at her boss in a state of total panic. Fiona places a firm, grounding hand on the designer's shoulder, reminding her that she was specifically chosen to help the Party-chan brand through its production crisis. Aexu looks down, the light reflecting off her glasses as she absorbs the weight of the professional expectations placed upon her. Before walking away, Fiona reminds her that the final deadline for the blueprints is next weekend, and she needs to accelerate her progress. Left in the wake of the confrontation, Aexu slumps over her desk, convinced she has messed everything up once again. Zhiyi quickly steps in to manage the room, telling the other team members to stop overthinking and return to their own work. She leans down to offer a gentle word of encouragement, telling the designer to ignore the pressure and simply work at her own pace. The team soon transitions into a high-stakes meeting, analyzing the data to identify why the Party-chan's sales records have been underperforming. Zhiyi works closely with Aexu at the drafting table, explaining that they need to focus more on the artistic value to make the figures more collectible. The office becomes a whirlwind of conflicting opinions, with everyone offering different trendy elements they think should be added to the design. Despite the noise, Aexu finds a small pocket of peace by retreating into her sketches, focusing solely on the movement of her pencil. She pours her concentration into the fine details of the character's limbs, trying to block out the mounting pressure. However, her coworkers crowd around again, suggesting candy-colored themes and following the latest market trends. Aexu's eyes sharpen with a cold, professional intensity as she realizes these non-designers are trying to dismantle her original vision. From behind her, Zhiyi watches in silence, sensing the growing friction between the artist's integrity and the team's demands. The office is decorated with a Spring Forever banner to celebrate Fiona's upcoming birthday. Aexu sits with a dead inside expression as the marketing team relentlessly critiques the lack of a hook in her latest designs. The team argues that an intentionally ugly, design could actually generate more viral buzz online. Internally, Aexu fumes at the suggestion, worried that fans will accuse her of selling out for a quick buck. She clutches her sketchbook tightly, struggling to find the words to defend her creative vision against their commercial demands. The marketing staff gathers around a tablet, completely ignoring Aexu's silent frustration. Under immense pressure, she hunches over her desk and begins sketching at a frantic pace to meet the new requirements. Despite her obvious exhaustion, the team flashes bright smiles while demanding even more rough drafts by tomorrow morning. The weight of the project becomes too much, leaving a chibi Aexu collapsed on the floor in a state of total defeat. She becomes a hollow shell of herself, mechanically drawing as the world around her fades to gray. The next morning arrives with an ominous feeling outside Fiona's private office. Fiona slams the stack of papers down in disgust, calling the rushed concepts completely unacceptable, and worse than the first draft. The marketing team stands in a dejected line, bearing the brunt of the boss's intense disappointment. Aexu walks away from the group, lamenting the constant headache is caused by forced collaboration. She marches through the office, dismissing the team's market trends as nothing more than recycled scraps of old ideas. Returning to her desk, she doubles down on her work, determined to prove that her instincts are superior to their data. Nearby, the marketing crew whispers about how difficult it is to work with a designer who refuses to listen. The tension peaks as they realize they might have to restructure the entire team if Aexu remains locked in her own world. Zhiyi reflects on her own childhood loneliness, realizing that Aexu's isolation might be a deep-seated defense mechanism. Watching from a distance, Zhiyi resolves to finally break through the wall Aexu has built around herself. While Aexu is buried in her digital tablet, Zhiyi prepares to launch a friendly invasion of her personal space. A firm hand suddenly grips Aexu's arm, snapping her out of her creative trance. With an energetic burst, Zhiyi practically hauls the stunned designer out of her chair for an impromptu outing. They arrive at a bustling shopping center, a far cry from the stifling atmosphere of the office. Zhiyi leads the way with a celebratory cheer, dragging a very reluctant and tired Aexu behind her. The bright afternoon sun beats down on the city as they navigate the busy streets. The mall is packed with shoppers, overwhelming Aexu's introverted senses. Unable to take the heat and the noise, Aexu literally melts into a blue puddle on the floor. Zhiyi looks down at the mushroom of despair that Aexu has become, realizing she needs a better plan to help her blend in. To help her feel more secure, Zhiyi gently places a cap on Aexu's head. She carefully fits a face mask over Aexu's nose, completing the incognito designer look. Standing back, Zhiyi strikes a confident pose and asks if this new outfit makes the environment more tolerable. They head toward the largest blind box store in the area, framing the trip as essential market research for their project. Zhiyi leans in close, confessing that her obsession with toys has left her bank account completely empty for the month. A comedic vision of flying red envelopes shows how wedding gifts and hobbies are draining Zhiyi's finances. Aexu feels a rare moment of relief, glad that her own solitary lifestyle has at least saved her wallet from such expenses. A beautiful display of the latest party-chan figures from last season catches their attention. Holding a small box, Aexu realizes she's finally experiencing her own designs from the customer's perspective for the first time. Zhiyi is shocked to see Aexu using a professional wigging technique to guess what's inside the package. A helpful graphic explains the art of box checking, where enthusiasts use weight and feel to hunt for specific figures. Closing her eyes, Aexu identifies the subtle, rounded edges of the sunflower party model through the cardboard. Zhiyi is floored by this display of ultimate designer skill, seeing Aexu's technical expertise in a whole new light. With pleading eyes, Zhiyi begs Aexu to use her blessed hands to help complete her personal collection. Aexu takes the task seriously, carefully comparing the weights of two identical-looking boxes to find the heaviest one. Through her glasses, Aexu's focus sharpens as she finds herself getting genuinely swept up in Zhiyi's excitement. She confidently hands over the chosen box, and Zhiyi prepares to tear it open with bated breath. Tears of joy stream down Zhiyi's face as they pull the exact rare figure they were looking for. In her excitement, Zhiyi grabs Aexu's hands, praising her incredible sensitivity and talent. Looking at Zhiyi's radiant smile, Aexu realizes that her work has the power to bring real happiness to others. Inspiration finally strikes as they both look up at the vibrant party-chan signage in the store. Nearby, a group of students admires the cute new releases, proving that Aexu's vision is finally resonating with the target audience. Nearby, a young customer eagerly shakes a blind box, desperate to guess what's hidden inside. As she speculates it might be a water lily, Zhiyi and Aexu watch from the background, noting the simple joy of the chase. The girl's eyes light up as she pulls the sunflower variant, a design Aexu remembers laboring over through endless revisions. Looking at the delicate figure, Aexu recalls her original intent: to create a sense of warmth and relaxation for the collector. However, the atmosphere shifts instantly as the girls realize it's not the rare one they wanted, grumbling about their bad luck. Seeing her hard work dismissed so easily, Aexu's spirit takes a massive hit, and she practically collapses into a heap of despair. Zhiyi steps in to defend the design, asking the girls if they really find the unique aesthetic unappealing. She holds the sunflower figure up, trying to bridge the gap between the designer's vision and the consumer's expectations. One girl admits she finds the color palette a bit tacky, suggesting that candy colors would have been much better. To make matters worse, Zhiyi pragmatically advises them to sell it quickly before the aftermarket price for the sunflower drops further. Seeing Aegsu's mounting distress, Zhiyi gently reminds her that it's natural for people to have different tastes, even if the series is a hit. Suddenly, the mood in the store shifts as another group of girls lets out a scream of pure excitement. They've just pulled the incredibly rare secret variant, and their genuine joy fills the room. Aegsu watches them closely, her professional curiosity piqued by their reaction to the high-end design. The secret variant is an ethereal mermaid-like figure, perfectly capturing the translucent, pearlescent finish the team had discussed. Seeing the pure satisfaction on the customers' faces reminds Aegsu why she became a designer in the first place. But the moment is bittersweet when the girls decide not to even open the packaging to preserve its high resale value. The realization that her art is being treated like a financial commodity rather than a toy sends Aegsu spiraling back into a comedic state of shock. As the sun sets over the city, the weight of the day's revelations begins to sink in. The duo heads to a local spot to unwind, where Aegsu tries to drown her professional sorrows in a cold drink. The atmosphere of the bar proves to be a bit too much stimulation for the exhausted designer as she starts to lose her composure. Zhiyi watches her partner with a mix of concern and realization, noting that Aegsu is usually much more emotionally stable. In a moment of total burnout, Aegsu declares that they should just discontinue the party-chan line entirely. Zhiyi panics at the thought, realizing her colleague is having a complete mental breakdown over the project's future. She tries to soothe the distraught designer, patting her head and reminding her how much she truly loves her creations. Tears well up as Aegsu confesses how much the negative reviews have hurt her, leading her to delete all her social media. She vents about the agonizing history of the project, from forced hair color changes to budget cuts that ruined the intended matte finish. Feeling like a failure who has let her own characters down, Aegsu imagines herself sinking into a sea of her own despair. Zhiyi asks if she ever bothered to explain these technical frustrations to their boss, Fiona. Aegsu mopes, convinced that the marketing team would never listen to a designer's perspective anyway. To her absolute shock, Zhiyi reveals her phone, showing that she has already organized and sent Aegsu's concerns to the boss. Fiona's reply is surprisingly supportive, acknowledging the technical hurdles and asking for a face-to-face meeting to fix things. Terrified of direct confrontation, Aegsu hides her face, while Zhiyi promises to act as her official messenger in the office. Zhiyi holds Aegsu's face firmly, promising to be her eyes and ears, so she doesn't have to face the harsh outside world alone. Aegsu gazes at her partner, finally realizing that her self-imposed isolation was what truly hurt the brand. Just then, a little girl stops at the window, pointing excitedly at the sunflower figure on display. Zhiyi and Aegsu watch from their seats as the child gazes at the toy with pure, unadulterated wonder. The girl exclaims that the figure looks like a little fairy she wants to take on a picnic, her eyes sparkling with joy. This is the exact reaction Aegsu dreamed of when she first put pen to paper for the Party-chan series. Though she briefly considers retreating back into her shell, the sight of the girl's happiness provides a spark of hope. Reaching out, Aegsu tentatively grabs hold of Zhiyi's sleeve, signaling a change of heart. With a newfound sense of resolve, she looks Zhiyi in the eye and agrees to give team collaboration one more try. Aegsu finally gives in, agreeing to the partnership as Zhiyi looks on with pure shock. Zhiyi's mind immediately races with grand plans for travel and reference gathering. Sensing her partner is about to bolt, Zhiyi firmly catches Aegsu by the arm. With an enthusiastic grin, Zhiyi asks for her senior's thoughts on the new strategy. The silence is deafening as Aegsu remains completely motionless in her seat. Suddenly, the designer's energy hits zero, and she collapses face first onto the table. Zhiyi stares in disbelief, wondering if her senior has already drifted off into a deep sleep. She gently reaches out, checking to see if Aegsu is still conscious. Realizing her partner is out cold, Zhiyi takes charge and lifts her up to head home. Aegsu mumbles to herself, trying to process that this chaotic night is her first step toward collaboration. Zhiyi manages to get the exact address as she carries the exhausted designer through the night. They make their way through the narrow hallway of the apartment complex together. Aegsu peeks out from behind her glasses, clearly overwhelmed by the proximity. Zhiyi looks back with a beaming, supportive expression that only adds to the tension. The designer feels like a total mess as she's carried along like a piece of luggage. They finally arrive at the quiet apartment building under the glow of the moonlight. Entering the home, Zhiyi is frozen in place by the sight that greets her. The room is a masterpiece of craftsmanship, filled with the incredible designs Aegsu has created. Needing a moment to recover her composure, Aegsu rushes toward the bathroom for a quick shower. Zhiyi smiles warmly, feeling a sense of pride that her senior is finally opening up. A sudden crash from the bathroom sends a jolt of panic through the marketer. She throws the door open, desperate to make sure her colleague hasn't hurt herself. Zhiyi's imagination runs wild with images of disastrous fall in the tub. She quickly scoops Aegsu up, worried the bump on her head might be a serious concussion. Carefully, she lays the designer down and pulls the blankets up to her chin. Zhiyi stands by the bed, relieved that the night's chaos has finally settled. Though she knows she should leave, she takes one last look at her sleeping partner. Exhaustion wins out as Zhiyi falls asleep nearby, while Aexu internally screams at the awkward situation. Morning arrives, and the two head toward the office with Aexu looking like a ghost. The designer is a bundle of nerves, dreading the social interaction waiting for her. They find the rest of the team gathered in the lobby, ready for the day to begin. Zhiyi steps forward, announcing that Aexu has something important to share with everyone. Seeing the crowd staring back, Aexu's social anxiety reaches its absolute breaking point. She offers a hand of encouragement, urging her to speak from the heart. Internally, the designer is already plotting her escape from the crushing spotlight. Zhiyi places a reassuring hand on her senior's back to steady her. She whispers final words of support, making sure Aexu doesn't back down. With a deep breath and a blush of embarrassment, Aexu faces her colleagues. She stammers through her apology, offering small treats as a gesture of goodwill. The team is instantly charmed, gathering around to welcome their lone wolf back to the pack. A colleague takes a satisfying bite of a custom cookie, impressed by the professional quality of the treat. Aexu slumps onto her desk in a state of total exhaustion, while Zhiyi remains remarkably chipper beside her. She vividly recalls the moment Zhiyi practically forced her into the social spotlight to make her public apology. Feeling like a puppet on a string, Aexu buries her face in her arms, overwhelmed by the sudden social interaction. Zhiyi leans in close to tease her, joking that Aexu is like a sensitive instrument that makes the funniest noises when poked. In a frantic blur of motion, Aexu's hand flies up to push the playful marketer away. Her eyes widen behind her glasses, her social battery completely drained by the unexpected physical proximity. Nearby, the team enjoys their treats while whispering about the undeniable chemistry developing between the two. The office gossip mill goes into overdrive as the colleagues wonder if Zhiyi is using some kind of secret charm on the designer. Zhiyi boasts about her caretaking skills, while a shadowy, spiraling Aexu screams internally in the background. To keep her from losing it, Zhiyi gently stuffs a cookie into Aexu's mouth to keep her quiet. A gong echoes through the office as the 6-day deadline approaches, sending the entire team into a creative frenzy. Fiona meticulously reviews the latest set of drafts, her sharp eyes searching for the perfect direction. Two final proposals, Proposal A and Proposal B, sit on the desk waiting for a definitive choice from the team. Zhiyi weighs in on the market trends, favoring the option that has the most commercial appeal. Aexu looks like a ghost of her former self, flatly stating that she doesn't care which one they pick. As night falls, a tiny, dejected version of Aexu wanders through her thoughts, plagued by creative guilt. The cold touch of a milk carton against her cheek snaps her back to the reality of the empty office. Zhiyi stands over her with a concerned look, having noticed that the designer's heart just wasn't in the final selection. Aexu looks away, admitting that the lack of passion for the project is a deep personal failure. She admits she feels completely hollow, watching the final drafts go through without a single spark of joy or satisfaction. In a moment of raw vulnerability, she confesses she feels like a fraud who is just dragging the whole team down. Tears begin to stream down her face as the weight of her perceived inadequacy finally breaks her spirit. Zhiyi pulls her into a firm, grounding embrace, reminding her that the whole team truly admires her hard work. She holds Aexu's face with a gentle touch, urging her to stop overthinking for just one night. Looking her straight in the eyes, Zhiyi promises to drive her home, so she can finally get some rest. As Zhiyi heads for the door, she leaves Aexu with instructions to finish her drink and meet her at the car. Aexu sips the milk, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over her thanks to the magic of Zhiyi's kindness. In the background, she hears her coworkers excitedly discussing a new promotion for a local amusement park. The word collaboration rings in her ears, suddenly acting as a catalyst for a brand new creative spark. A vision of a massive park event flashes through her mind, filled with potential for their brand. Realizing she's found the missing piece of the puzzle, she frantically gathers her things to leave. She sprints through the nighttime streets, her mind racing with plans for a themed hotel package. She slows down, realizing this is the perfect opportunity to finally be the one to invite Zhiyi out. A determined look crosses her face as she prepares to step out of her comfort zone and be proactive. Her eyes shimmer with anticipation at the thought of surprising the person who has supported her so much. She spots Zhiyi waiting by the car, but she isn't alone in the dim light of the street lamps. A blue-haired woman suddenly lunges at Zhiyi, wrapping her in a playful but tight headlock. The stranger laughs and teases Zhiyi about her department's workload, demanding a meal as payment for her time. Aexu watches from the shadows, the sight of their intimate laughter making her freeze in her tracks. Her face pales and her heart sinks, the courage she just found evaporating in an instant. Seeing Zhiyi in a playful headlock with another woman shatters Aexu's growing confidence. She realizes the social gap between them is a chasm she can't cross. The realization that they inhabit different worlds hits her hard. Watching Zhiyi's genuine joy with someone else feels like a personal rejection. A single tear falls as Aexu accepts her place as just another face in the crowd. She retreats into the night, deciding to handle the upcoming project alone. Her heart sinks further as the weight of loneliness sets in. in. The sudden downpour perfectly mirrors her internal gloom. Determined to bury her feelings in work, she captures a reference shot of the park. Disguised in a hoodie, she coldly reviews the technical quality of her photos. Her notebook is filled with a mechanical, joyless itinerary. She stands before the massive Ferris wheel, seeing only a task to complete. She rejects the staff's assistance, wanting to finish her mission and leave. Her intense, dark energy makes the park security extremely suspicious. She methodically documents every attraction without a single moment of fun. Even a melting ice cream cone fails to break her robotic focus. She arrives at the luxury hotel looking like a walking shadow. Her terrifying aura sends a chill through the regular guests in the lobby. Despite the successful research, she feels completely hollow and uninspired. A shadow looms over her as she mopes outside her room. Panic sets in as she fears a confrontation with a potential scammer. She tries to vanish into the floor to avoid any interaction. Her heart races as the figure stops directly in front of her. A sudden touch sends her soul flying in absolute terror. Her eyes widen when she realizes the threat is a familiar face. Zhiyi greets her with a bright, radiant smile that cuts through the gloom. Zhiyi immediately hugs her, complaining about being left out of the trip. She presents bags of premium takeout to sustain the exhausted designer. Zhiyi excitedly lists a new itinerary for their joint professional collaboration. Aixu tries to maintain her distance, claiming her solo work is sufficient. Zhiyi refuses to let her hide, acting as a persistent and cheerful guide. The designer struggles to keep her professional walls up against the charm offensive. Claiming the hotel is fully booked, Zhiyi negotiates a way into the room. She playfully manipulates a flustered Aixu into agreeing to her every whim. Zhiyi celebrates how easy it is to sway the stubborn designer. Aixu realizes she is completely powerless against Zhiyi's overwhelming presence. The grand castle of Star Island amusement park towers over the horizon, its Ferris wheel spinning slowly under the morning sun. Aixu finds herself drowning in the dense, suffocating crowd, her anxiety spiking with every accidental shoulder bump. Before she can retreat, Zhiyi playfully forces a pink bunny hat over her head, cutting through her mounting panic. Zhiyi beams in her matching white headgear, completely ignoring Aixu's visible discomfort with the sudden public attention. They approach a vibrant merchandise stall where the salesperson explains the park's special badge collection challenge. Aixu tries to duck out of the awkward activity, but Zhiyi playfully tugs on her bunny ear to keep her focused on the goal. The two stand in a momentary, quiet standoff as the energetic atmosphere of the park swirls around them. Giving in to the peer pressure, they strike a synchronized pose for the camera, though Aixu looks like she'd rather be invisible. Zhiyi settles the bill at the counter, officially committing them to the day's competitive festivities. Zhiyi leans in to adjust Aixu's hat, gently reminding her that the world isn't as scary as she imagines when they are together. With a confident wink, Zhiyi promises to handle all the social heavy lifting so Aixu can focus on the technical aspects of their research. Steeling herself for the ordeal ahead, Aixu prepares for the official start of game time. Their map tracks their progress across the island, leading them straight toward the blind box monster showdown. During the high-speed ride, Zhiyi snaps a high-energy selfie, while Aixu clings to the safety bar in pure, unadulterated terror. Next, the duo navigates toward the screaming Gashapon corridor, moving deeper into the heart of the park's attractions. Inside the dimly lit haunted house, the roles suddenly reverse as a trembling Zhiyi clings desperately to Aixu's arm. Zhiyi huddles close, her earlier bravado completely evaporated as she finds comfort in her partner's steady presence. Aixu looks back in surprise, realizing her normally assertive companion is genuinely paralyzed with fear. A mechanical ghoul lunges from the shadows, shattering the silence with a sudden, jarring movement. Zhiyi lets out a blood-curdling scream and leaps into Aixu's arms, seeking total protection from the jump scare. Despite the chaos, Aixu remains remarkably unfazed, calmly taking notes about the attraction's design while Zhiyi cowers. The map updates again, marking their successful passage through the corridor as they head to the Starcatcher training camp. At the shooting range, Zhiyi struggles to even lift the heavy toy rifle, her aim shaking wildly as she misses every target. Suddenly, a target bear is knocked back by a perfectly placed, high-velocity shot from the lane over. Aixu enters a state of total flow, her hands rock steady as she eliminates every target with professional, military-like precision. She lowers the blaster with a cool expression, crediting her accuracy to the patience and hand strength developed through years of crafting. Zhiyi watches in stunned silence, realizing she has vastly underestimated the quiet designer's hidden physical talents. Having dominated the game, they walk back into the sunlight, Aixu now sporting a sharpshooter headband as a trophy. The victory gives Aixu a rare moment of quiet pride, her eyes softening as she adjusts her new prize. They stop at a rest area, and Zhiyi heads into the restroom, leaving Aixu alone for a brief moment of reflection. Aixu takes a seat on a nearby bench, the peacefulness of the park's outskirts finally starting to sink in. She flips through her notebook, surprised to find a genuine smile tugging at her lips as she reviews the day's events. The map in her journal has transformed from a chore list into a record of shared, meaningful experiences. Her inner thoughts manifest as a tiny sprite, warning her not to fall for Zhiyi's infectious social energy too easily. Aixu sighs, questioning if her habitual desire for isolation is actually just a defense mechanism. A soft bark breaks her train of thought, drawing her attention to the nearby bushes where something is moving. A tiny white puppy trots into view, looking up at her with expectant, watery eyes that melt her resolve. Her social anxiety flares up again, worrying that the owner might appear or that the animal might react poorly to her touch. Overcoming her hesitation, she slowly reaches out a hand to feel the animal's incredibly soft, white fur. The puppy suddenly freezes mid-motion, causing Aexu to panic and wonder if she did something wrong. She quickly realized the dog is actually a sophisticated robotic toy designed for park-goers to interact with. She recalls Zhiyi's encouraging words and feels a surge of courage to finally enjoy the moment. Seeing that no one is around to judge her, she crouches down to fully interact with the mechanical pet. She gently strokes its head, marveling at the high-quality technical engineering behind the realistic movements. Disaster strikes when the robot loses its balance and tumbles over onto the grass with a mechanical click. Aexu stares in horror at the downed machine, her mind racing with the fear of having broken expensive park property. Her heart sinks as she spots Zhiyi watching from behind a tree, having witnessed the entire awkward interaction. To break the tension, Zhiyi hilariously mimes being a dog on a leash, turning the embarrassment into a shared joke to cheer her up. They eventually arrive at the Culinary Theater, a high-end restaurant featuring a distinct magical theme. Aexu notes the sign and realizes with a blush that the special event is strictly reserved for couples. Before she can object, Zhiyi grabs her in a firm embrace and boldly announces to the staff that they are a couple to secure their reservation. Aexu's mind is a chaotic swirl, the words, "we're a couple," reverberating through her head like an endless echo. Finding herself suddenly seated at a table, she snaps back to reality only to realize she's been dressed up in ridiculous accessories. She immediately spirals into an existential crisis, imagining a future of domestic disputes and workplace drama that all ends in a bitter office rivalry. Desperate to maintain her sanity, she tries to convince herself that this is all a temporary ruse that ends the moment they step outside. However, her resolve crumbles instantly when Zhiyi turns on the charm, pleading with the most heart-melting expression imaginable. Despite her best efforts to stay professional, Aexu finds herself completely unable to resist Zhiyi's adorable request to join the couple's event. Overwhelmed by the sheer cuteness of the situation, the stoic designer can only hide her face in her hands and surrender. The restaurant host kicks off the first challenge, explaining that the couples must play a high-stakes game of drawing and guessing for a dessert prize. Aexu takes the digital pen in hand, focusing all her technical skill into a rapid sketch as Zhiyi watches with intense focus. Before the drawing is even halfway finished, Zhiyi slams the buzzer, correctly identifying the object as a tumbler with a straw. The host is stunned by their razor-sharp synchronization, though Aexu quickly attempts to deflect the praise by insisting they are merely co-workers. The momentum continues as Zhiyi guesses a fridge magnet with impossible speed, leaving the surrounding crowd in absolute awe of their connection. With a string of correct answers under their belt, Zhiyi celebrates their dominant performance, while the audience whispers about how long they must have lived together. Aexu, however, is genuinely unsettled, wondering how they could possibly be this in sync after only working together for a single month. The host then announces a role reversal for the second round, tasking Zhiyi with acting out the prompts while Aexu plays the guesser. Zhiyi immediately dives into the role, performing a strange, wiggling dance that leaves the logical Aexu completely baffled and speechless. Watching the bizarre display, Aexu begins to suspect that Zhiyi is intentionally trying to lure her into an emotional trap. Even though their telepathy fails during the acting round, they still clinch second place, prompting an ecstatic Zhiyi to pull Aexu into a celebratory embrace. Aexu stares down at her half-price voucher, feeling a deep sense of unease about how easily Zhiyi crosses professional boundaries. As they settle in to enjoy their hard-earned dessert, Zhiyi notices the sudden shift in her partner's mood. Aexu tries to create some distance, her internal monologue urging her to remain detached despite the festive atmosphere. She reaches out to point out a small smudge on Zhiyi's face, hoping to keep the interaction strictly functional. But the plan backfires when Zhiyi leans in dangerously close, closing the gap between them to maintain the couple facade for their audience. The sudden proximity causes Aexu's internal logic to completely short-circuit, her brain practically exploding from the sensory overload. She recoils in a panicked fluster, demanding an explanation for the sudden move as her face flushes a deep crimson. Zhiyi calmly points toward the staff, reminding her that they are being watched and must keep up the performance to avoid being exposed as frauds. Left feeling like a petrified statue, Aexu realizes she is completely outmatched by Zhiyi's commitment to the bit. As the meal concludes, Zhiyi attempts to apologize for the scare, but Aexu is already retreating back into her shell, focusing intensely on a new sketch. The marketing expert tries to win her over with more puppy dog eyes, begging for forgiveness for the misunderstanding. Aexu's anxiety only grows, frustrated that she's the only one feeling guilty and anxious while Zhiyi remains perfectly composed. She reminds herself that Zhiyi is naturally charismatic with everyone, and that this intimacy is likely just another part of her social toolkit. Adjusting her glasses, Aexu resolves to harden her heart and treat the entire outing as nothing more than a field research assignment. Her concentration is broken when Zhiyi leans over her shoulder, her curiosity piqued by the secret project on the tablet. Aexu's inner spirit feels completely harassed as she tries to shield her work from Zhiyi's prying eyes. Eventually, they leave the table behind, the remnants of their shared meal the only evidence of their date. Zhiyi continues her charm offensive, offering cotton candy and ice cream in a desperate bid to regain her senior's attention. Their exit is cut short when a staff member calls out to them, causing Aexu to fear that their ruse has finally been uncovered. To their surprise, the employee holds up Aexu's drawing, revealing that the boss wants to feature the professional-grade artwork on their official social media page. Zhiyi is absolutely delighted by the discovery, immediately pulling out her phone to document the masterpiece and their successful mission. The day ends with their couple photo going viral, a permanent digital record of the time their professional boundaries were blurred at the amusement park. Back at the hotel, Aexu desperately tries to focus on her sketches, forcing her pencil across the paper to drown out her racing thoughts. She battles a wave of exhaustion and mental static, her mind a chaotic battlefield of self-doubt and lingering memories of the day's events. Scattered Polaroids on the desk serve as a constant reminder of their park outing, capturing moments of forced proximity that feel far too real. While Aexu grinds away at her workstation, Zhiyi relaxes on the bed, seemingly unaffected by the professional tension thick in the air. The pressure finally peaks as Aexu's pencil lead snaps against the page, a sharp crack echoing her internal state. She clutches her head in a fit of frustration, unable to comprehend why her focus has been completely hijacked by her partner's presence. Desperate for an exit strategy, she stares at her laptop and contemplates a literal run for it to escape these conflicting emotions. She looks away with a heavy heart, wishing she could simply erase these meaningless feelings and return to her solitary life. The silence is shattered when Zhiyi suddenly leans in with a phone full of new travel plans, completely overwhelming Aexu's senses. Startled and defensive, Aexu reflexively pulls back, her professional composure crumbling under the sudden intrusion. Her mind flashes to a frantic escape plan involving a quick flight home and her cat, anything to get away from the marketing specialist's influence. However, she remains stuck in place as Zhiyi casually handles business calls, leaving Aexu to simmer in her own dejection. The next morning, the scene shifts to the imposing glass towers of the corporate headquarters, where the fate of their project will be decided. Inside the office, Fiona meticulously reviews the new proposal, her expression unreadable as she flips through the pages. The tension breaks when Zhiyi pulls Aexu into a celebratory embrace, signaling that their hard work has finally paid off. From across the desk, Fiona offers a supportive thumbs up, officially validating the duo's collaborative efforts. They march into the main office to announce the publication of their work, catching the attention of the entire department. The team erupts into cheers, with colleagues expressing genuine awe at the quality of the new design. Zhiyi takes the opportunity to boast about her partner's genius, painting Aexu as an unstoppable force of creative talent. Aexu looks at her own hands in disbelief, finally feeling a spark of pride in a collaboration she initially dreaded. But the joy is short-lived as she overhears colleagues gossiping about her inevitable transfer back to her old department. Watching Zhiyi thrive in the social spotlight, Aexu realizes that their temporary partnership is nearing its end, and things will soon return to a cold, professional baseline. The weight of the project takes a physical toll, leaving Aexu with dark circles under her eyes and a hollow gaze. She eventually collapses into her office chair, buried under a blanket as she succumbs to total burnout. Her rest is interrupted by the harsh glow of a smartphone screen, delivering a crushing blow to her morale. Fiona sits in the dark office, her face grim as she explains that the higher-ups have officially rejected the new review. The subsequent meeting is a somber affair, with the entire team gathered to process the technical barriers that have stalled the project. Aexu can only look down in silence, her voice failing her as she absorbs the professional setback. Deep down, she is devastated that the design she poured her soul into is being discarded so easily. Fiona watches her closely, worried that the designer's closed-off personality will prevent her from fighting back. Suddenly, Zhiyi slams her hands on the table, refusing to accept the executive's excuses and standing up for the project's integrity. The product manager counters with cold logic, arguing that further investment is a losing business proposition. Undeterred, Zhiyi stares him down and boldly guarantees that this new design will break into the top 5 in sales. She stakes her entire professional reputation on the marketing data, defending the necessity of taking creative risks. The room turns toxic when a rival designer, Mikey, interjects with a snide remark about the trouble they're causing. Zhiyi doesn't flinch, turning her sharp gaze toward the critic to silence any further dissent. She continues her passionate defense, pointing out that resting on old laurels is the quickest path to failure. Behind her, Aexu feels her heart thumping against her chest, moved by Zhiyi's unwavering belief in her work. Her lips tremble as she struggles to find the words to join the fray and claim her own agency. Finally, Aexu stands up, drawing every eye in the room toward her as she prepares to speak. Gripping her shirt with a shaky but determined hand, she makes a silent vow not to let this opportunity slide. With a look of newfound resolve, she declares that she will revise the structure herself to overcome every technical hurdle and prove their worth. Aexu shocks the entire room by declaring she will personally restructure the design to slash production costs. Meanwhile, an executive's phone buzzes relentlessly with urgent warnings regarding his child being left at school. Panicked by the domestic crisis, the manager abruptly bails on the meeting, leaving Fiona to manage the fallout. He practically sprints out of the office, terrified of the consequences if he fails to pick up his kid. Zhiyi leans over the table with a triumphant grin, thrilled that they finally secured the chance to prove their project's worth. Aexu's hands tremble as she grips the table, the weight of her sudden promise beginning to sink in. The piece is shattered when engineer Chang from the materials department storms in, fuming over the proposed changes. He aggressively demands to know if the designers even understand the complex physics of injection molding and shrinkage rates. Aexu freezes under his intense glare, feeling the physical weight of the technical department's hostility. Chang crosses his arms defiantly, questioning who will take the fall when the production quality inevitably collapses. Engineer Zhang from production joins the attack, complaining that the new blueprints have turned the entire factory schedule into a disaster. Fiona stands tall and shuts them down, coolly ordering the engineers to follow protocol and submit their technical grievances in writing. Zhiyi and Aexu watch in awe, completely mesmerized by their boss's effortless authority and goddess tier, composure. However, Fiona quickly humbles them, demanding they think twice before making such reckless promises in the future. In a moment of professional support, Fiona pats Aexu's head and hands over the lab keys to facilitate her late-night research. As evening falls over the city, the focus shifts to the quiet determination needed to see this project through. Aexu stands against the sunset, her silhouette reflecting a newfound resolve to conquer the technical hurdles. Watching from the shadows, she is struck by the quiet strength radiating from her partner. Looking out over the skyline, Zhiyi realizes that Aexu is far more resilient than she ever gave her credit for. Night settles over the apartment complex as the real work is about to begin. Aexu splashes cold water on her face, trying to wash away the lingering adrenaline from the high-stakes meeting. She stares at her reflection, her heart still racing from the shock of actually standing up for herself in public. She hides her face in her hands, overwhelmed by the fact that someone finally stood by her side and supported her. Her mind whirls with the strange new labels of workaholic and social butterfly being thrown her way by her imagination. She frantically waves off the imaginary praise, desperate to return to her quiet, focused reality. Pushing her glasses up, she locks back into professional mode, ready to tackle the grueling design revisions. She sets a series of midnight alarms, prepared to spend the entire night in total isolation to finish the draft. Her solitude is instantly shattered when Zhiyi appears at her door with a massive suitcase and a determined look. Before Aexu can even process the intrusion, Zhiyi is already lugging her gear into the apartment to begin their co-working session. Aexu tries to maintain her professional boundaries, but Zhiyi is already committed to providing full-time support for the project. Zhiyi leans in close, genuinely impressed by the sheer mental fortitude Aexu displayed against the engineering team. Aexu remains focused on the mission, explaining that she is simply doing what is necessary regardless of what others think. Overwhelmed by inspiration, Zhiyi grabs her partner's hands, praising her for staying fearless during the team's credibility crisis. Zhiyi beams with pure professional admiration, claiming Aexu's dedication is practically illuminating the path they need to take. While Zhiyi prepares to act as the ultimate assistant, Aexu realizes her peaceful workspace has been completely invaded by her enthusiastic partner. Zhiyi enthusiastically explains her healthy overtime plan, designed to keep Aexu at peak performance throughout the week. Aexu appears as a drained shell of herself, her mental energy completely evaporated by her partner's intense management style. Zhiyi cheerfully offers a cup of coffee to the struggling designer, who finds the flavor to be quite unusual. Frustration mounts as Aexu frantically searches through piles of documents for a missing technical file. Chaos erupts in the kitchen when a pot lid catches fire, forcing the duo to use a spray nozzle to extinguish the blaze. Zhiyi playfully tries to coax her senior out of a blanket cocoon to ensure she follows the rest schedule. Despite the hectic night inside, the exterior of the apartment building remains calm under the morning sun. Zhiyi carefully prepares a spoonful of nutritious food to ensure Aexu maintains her energy levels for the redesign. She presents a specially curated breakfast bowl packed with proteins and vitamins to the weary designer. Zhiyi provides a warm beverage at exactly 40 degrees to perfectly replenish the senior's calcium and sugar levels. Anticipating every technical need, Zhiyi unrolls a professional toolkit containing the fine-tipped tweezers required for the work. A strange sense of synergy develops between the two as they realize their intensive practice has made their teamwork seamless. Aexu places a hand on the table to steady herself as she finally attempts to stand up from her desk. The sheer exhaustion of the sprint hits all at once, leaving the designer feeling dangerously dizzy. Zhiyi gently guides her to the bed, insisting she take a much-needed 1-hour nap while wearing a comfortable eye mask. While Aexu rests, Zhiyi looks over the various pet-themed accessories and figures scattered across the workstation. She carefully adjusts the mask, asking if Aexu has ever considered getting a pet to help manage her stress. Aexu sighs, admitting that the responsibility of a pet feels like too much of a burden during such a high-stakes project. Zhiyi suddenly suggests a creative roleplay idea where she acts as a pet to help provide the senior with a mental break. The suggestion causes a hilarious panic as Aexu tries to flee from her assistant's unconventional relaxation methods. Determined to get back to the project, the designer shouts that she needs to return to her overtime work immediately. Zhiyi catches her by the ankle, firmly reminding her that it is strictly time for a scheduled recovery period. She encourages the exhausted senior to take a refreshing shower to prepare for the final 20 hours of the technical sprint. Zhiyi waits patiently outside the bathroom door as the water begins to run for the senior's break. She reflects on how serious and dedicated Aexu becomes once she sets her mind on a professional goal. Zhiyi admits to herself that she often loses momentum, whereas Aexu's focus is almost impossible to distract. Watching the designer work, she marvels at the level of concentration that leads Aexu to forget basic needs like eating and sleeping. Even when facing immense hardships and the fear of professional failure, the senior continues to climb toward her goals. Zhiyi feels a surge of motivation, realizing she must make her own achievements to keep up with such a resolute partner. Steam rises from the shower head as the hot water provides a brief moment of respite from the engineering stress. Inside the shower, Aexu struggles to maintain her composure. Feeling the social pressure of her coworkers' presence, she reaches for a towel, hoping that returning to her design work will help her regain her professional focus. The designer's face turns pale with realization as she remembers she forgot to bring her change of clothing into the bathroom. Her internal monologue spirals into a comedic crisis as she weighs her limited options for exiting the room with dignity. She huddles in the laundry basket, wishing she could simply pretend this logistical oversight never happened. A sudden knock on the door interrupts her panic as Zhiyi announces a much-needed delivery service. Zhiyi enters the room with the forgotten laundry, offering the items with her usual helpful and cheerful demeanor. The sheer embarrassment of the situation causes Aexu's mental sanity to plummet to critical levels. Zhiyi notes the simple design of the senior's clothing and offers to find something more sophisticated if preferred. Offended by the critique of her wardrobe choices, Aexu slams the door open to confront her assistant's fashion sense. With a competitive fire in her eyes, she challenges Zhiyi to prove just how adult her own style choices actually are. Sunlight streams into the quiet bedroom where the morning breeze sets the stage for a dramatic confrontation. Aexu pins Zhiyi to the mattress, determined to prove that her wardrobe is far more mature than her junior gives her credit for. Zhiyi quickly realizes she's poked the bear, frantically apologizing as she tries to escape the senior's intense gaze. There's no backing down now as Aexu looms over her with a fierce look that signals the onus pushover has finally reached her limit. Caught in the heat of the moment, Zhiyi begins to change, silently regretting that she didn't pick out her newest lace set for this unexpected inspection. Aexu reaches out, her fingers grazing Zhiyi as she maintains her unwavering focus on the task at hand. The two grapple on the bed, with Aexu firmly grabbing Zhiyi's wrists to keep her from squirming away. Pinning her junior down, Aexu demands that Zhiyi stops resisting so they can settle this fashion debate once and for all. A chaotic clash of personalities erupts in a flurry of pillows and clothes as the two roommates settle their score. Aexu's grip tightens on Zhiyi's wrist, her voice dropping to a serious tone as she commands her to stay perfectly still. Looking through her camera lens, Aexu's eyes light up with a sudden realization that the dynamic pose before her is the missing key to her design. The creative spark ignites as Aexu begins snapping reference photos, her designer instincts overriding the earlier tension. Lying flat on the floor, Aexu captures the perfect low angle to showcase the model-like elegance of the silhouette. She stands back to meticulously analyze the muscle lines on her phone, finding the exact technical reference she needs for the revision. Watching her senior work with such raw professional intensity, Zhiyi can't help but feel a deep sense of admiration for Aexu's talent. This professional drive extends to Aexu's private collection, showcasing a series of intricately designed custom dolls she created in her spare time. Impressed by the craftsmanship, Zhiyi asks for permission to photograph the unique figures to document her senior's brilliant work. Back at the office, the results of their intense sprint are finally revealed as the second revision deadline arrives. The design department erupts in cheers as the manager delivers the news that the project has officially passed review. Surrounded by her supportive colleagues, a humble Aexu receives for achieving what many thought was impossible. Fiona takes a moment to acknowledge Aexu's growth, noting how much her ability to collaborate with others has improved. The manager playfully teases the designer about how far she's come since the days when she was too nervous to even speak to her teammates. A senior colleague offers a reassuring hand on her shoulder, predicting that this new collection is destined for the top 10. As Aexu walks away with a composed expression, the team watches in awe, convinced they are witnessing the rise of a true industry boss. However, the second she's out of sight, the facade crumbles as Aexu bounces with pure, unadulterated joy. Transformed into a literal happy mushroom, she dances through the office corridors to celebrate her massive victory. Bursting through her front door, Aexu calls out for Zhiyi, eager to start their celebratory dinner. The excitement fades instantly when she remembers that Zhiyi is away at a class reunion, leaving the apartment echoing with silence. A cold shiver of disappointment hits Aexu as she realizes just how much she's grown accustomed to her junior's constant presence. In her mind, her personal world is under siege by the terrifying realization that she might actually be lonely. Shaking off the sentimentality, she puts on a brave face and vows to maintain her independence, no matter what. To keep herself busy, Aexu begins the bittersweet task of packing up Zhiyi's belongings for her move the next day. But as she gathers a stack of books, a hidden manga falls out, revealing a side of Zhiyi that Aexu never expected to see. The celebration kicks off as glasses clink together in a spirited toast. Sizzling meat fills the grill, keeping the energy high at the dinner table. Zhiyi's friend watches her closely, marveling at how someone so small and nimble can be such a powerhouse. Leaning in with a smirk, the friend pressures Zhiyi to stop being a coward and finally confess her feelings. Zhiyi nearly falls over, insisting that the timing for such a bold move isn't right just yet. She accidentally spits out her drink in shock while daydreaming about a particularly sweet moment shared with her senior. Fed up with the excuses, the friend lunges for the phone, threatening to order flowers and settle the matter right now. Zhiyi grips her phone tight, blushing as she expresses her deep admiration for Aexu's professional focus. Her friend offers a sobering warning, recounting how being a mere stepping stone for a career-oriented woman led to her own heartbreak. Meanwhile, the moon hangs high over the quiet apartment complex where Aexu is currently working. Inside, Aexu stands completely frozen, paralyzed by the shocking contents of the manga she just opened. She realizes with a start that Zhiyi's entire hidden collection is filled with these intense, dramatic romance stories. Panicking, she slams the book shut, trying her best to respect her roommate's private interests. She collapses onto the floor, her mind racing as she tries to process this unexpected side of her friend. Despite her internal conflict, curiosity wins out as she slowly reaches back for the forbidden pages. Suddenly, the front door bursts open, and a startled Aexu screams in pure terror. A clearly intoxicated Zhiyi lunges forward and tackle hugs her, tearfully begging her senior not to abandon her. Aexu's mind flashes back to a specific line in the manga about the strategic art of capturing someone's heart. Every touch and lingering gaze from the past few weeks suddenly begins to take on a much more calculated meaning. Her face turns a bright shade of crimson as the realization of being captured hits her all at once. The room finally falls quiet as the exhausted and tipsy Zhiyi slumps onto the floor. Overwhelmed by the tension, Aexu retreats to the kitchen, hiding by the fridge to catch her breath. Zhiyi quickly tracks her down, clinging to her waist and pleading for her to stay put. Looking up with wide, watery eyes, the younger girl demands a sincere promise of loyalty. Aexu struggles to maintain her composure while the drunk girl refuses to let go of her. She stares off into the distance, questioning for the first time what it truly means to like someone. Her imagination begins to run wild, manifesting her internal confusion as a mysterious and haunting figure. She shakes her head vigorously, trying to convince herself that real life isn't a scripted drama from a book. A sudden chime at the door cuts through the heavy atmosphere and brings her back to reality. She opens the door to find a delivery person holding a massive, elegant bouquet of white flowers. As she takes the gift, Zhiyi leans in from behind to confirm that the romantic gesture was her doing. Aexu's heart races in a panic, wondering if she has officially fallen into her roommate's master plan. Aexu feels the walls closing in as a persistent Zhiyi traps her against the door with a massive bouquet of flowers. The air grows thick with tension as Zhiyi leans in close, her eyes locked onto a trembling and sweating Aexu. Zhiyi whispers a startling confession that sends a chill down Aexu's spine, admitting she learned her romantic tactics from those hidden manga books. Taking Aexu's hand with a firm grip, Zhiyi's gaze is filled with a terrifyingly sincere determination to be honest. She gently but firmly cups Aexu's face, ensuring there is nowhere left for her senior to hide from the conversation. Zhiyi demands a real answer to her feelings, refusing to let Aexu escape behind her usual cute and deflective facade. The physical proximity becomes overwhelming for Aexu, who feels as though she is being caught in a calculated romantic trap. Under the intense pressure of the moment, Aexu's resolve begins to crumble as she looks away in a fit of blushing shame. She finally snaps and confronts Zhiyi directly, questioning if this entire pursuit was just a plan to capture her heart. Aexu's voice trembles with frustration as she asks if making her this vulnerable gives Zhiyi a sense of professional accomplishment. The harsh accusation hits home immediately, turning Zhiyi's confident expression into one of pure, wide-eyed heartbreak. In a fit of panicked frustration, Aexu continues to lash out, convinced that every interaction has been a cold calculation. Tears well up in Zhiyi's eyes as she defends herself, claiming she only fell this deep because Aexu gave her a signal first. Stunned by the raw emotion of the outburst, Aexu is left completely speechless with her mind going blank. Suddenly, her internal guilt manifests into a bizarre imaginary courtroom where she stands trial for her confusing actions. Dressed in prisoner stripes, Aexu faces a stern judge while being accused of deliberately leading her colleague on. Her eyes widen in horror behind her glasses as the weight of the metaphorical charges begins to sink in. The prosecution presents evidence of Aexu acting like a dominant figure to manipulate the situation to her advantage. They highlight moments of her being vulnerable in the bath, painting them as calculated moves to gain Zhiyi's sympathy. Even the memory of Zhiyi helping her home from the bar is twisted into a scene of Aexu's deliberate seduction. Leaving her glasses behind at Zhiyi's house is framed as a long premeditated tactic to mark her territory like a professional hunter. The final blow comes as an image of a romantic embrace is held up as the definitive proof of her crimes against Zhiyi. Zhiyi plays the part of the sobbing victim in the witness stand, leaving the judge with no choice but to pass a harsh sentence. In this nightmare, Aexu is condemned to be a loyal companion for life, a sentence she finds absolutely terrifying. She bolts upright in bed with a gasp, sweat dripping down her face as the nightmare finally breaks. Beside her in the quiet room, the real Zhiyi is still sound asleep, completely oblivious to the chaos in Aexu's head. Looking down at the peaceful face of her friend, Aexu's heart is a mess of conflicting emotions and lingering guilt. The morning sun soon fills the apartment, signaling the end of their complicated overnight stay. Zhiyi prepares to depart for her own home, her backpack on and a polite smile masking her visible exhaustion. Aexu stands awkwardly at the door, noticing how low on energy Zhiyi seems after the previous night's drama. Her conscience begins to gnaw at her as she realizes how much her harsh words must have hurt. Tiny chibi versions of her inner voice scold her mercilessly for being so ruthless to someone who was only being sincere. Zhiyi leans in for one last word before leaving, catching Aexu off guard with her sudden proximity. With a hopeful yet hesitant look, Zhiyi asks if Aexu will even miss her a little bit once she's gone. Aexu remains frozen in place, the words caught in her throat as she struggles to process her complicated feelings, not wanting to cause any more discomfort. Zhiyi quickly laughs it off and tells her senior to just keep resting. She turns to wheel her suitcase away, clearly feeling the sting of the embarrassment and the growing distance between them. Aexu's inner demons continue to shout, labeling her as a total failure for letting things end on such a sour note. Watching Zhiyi's retreating back, Aexu feels a sharp pang of regret for her defensive behavior. Even as she prepares to exit, Zhiyi can't help but offer a list of caring, professional reminders for Aexu to take care of herself. Driven by a sudden impulse to fix her mistake, Aexu reaches out and firmly stops the suitcase by the handle. She insists on walking Zhiyi home, taking the burden of the heavy luggage upon herself to show she cares. Zhiyi stops in her tracks and looks back, her eyes wide with genuine shock at the sudden change in Aexu's attitude. Aexu admits she misses the honest and direct version of Zhiyi and wants to return to their natural dynamic. A bright, joyful smile finally returns to Zhiyi's face as she happily accepts the gesture, and the two head out together. The group arrives at a sprawling, high-end estate that looks more like a palace than a home. Inside, Zhiyi's family creates a whirlwind of chaotic energy, immediately swarming Aexu with offers of milk, tea, and snacks. The sheer intensity of their hospitality is enough to make anyone's head spin as they showcase everything from prize-winning flowers to the family dog. Poor Aexu finds herself physically trembling, her social battery completely drained by the relentless extroverted energy. Seizing a brief moment of silence, she politely attempts to excuse herself from the overwhelming gathering. However, Zhiyi quickly grabs her arm, her eyes pleading for a guest to stay just a little longer. The rest of the family piles on the pressure, offering everything from vintage soda to a dance session to keep her there. Aexu barely manages to stumble toward the exit, desperate for a breath of fresh air. She leans against the exterior wall, gasping for air and deeply regretting her decision to come over. Her escape is short-lived when she looks up to see a stern, suit-clad man who radiates an intimidating presence. It feels like she's cleared the first level of a game, only to be confronted by the final boss in the driveway. Surprisingly, as they stand in silence, it becomes clear that this man shares her same gloomy and introverted aura. The rest of the family catches up, questioning why Aexu is leaving right when they should be celebrating Zhiyi's birthday. The revelation hits Aexu like a physical blow, leaving her stunned that she was completely unaware of the occasion. Zhiyi looks down with a melancholic expression, softly telling Aexu that it's okay to leave if it makes her more comfortable. Guilt washes over Aexu as she imagines herself locked away in a prison of her own making for ruining such an important day. Seeing Zhiyi looking so dejected while hugging her dog, Aexu realizes she can't possibly walk away now. With a heavy sigh of resignation, she announces that she will stay to celebrate after all. Zhiyi's mood shifts instantly as she lunges forward to grasp Aexu's hands in pure excitement. She beams at her senior, deeply moved by the unexpected display of patience and kindness. Capitalizing on the moment, Zhiyi suggests they start the festivities by giving her golden retriever, Mao Mao, a bath. Aexu stares at the dog, realizing the pet is just as hyperactive and demanding as its owner. Despite her initial hesitation, she can't say no to the combined puppy eyes of both the girl and the dog. Soon, Aexu is out in the yard, donned in protective gear and ready to tackle the messy task. Zhiyi watches with a triumphant smirk, realizing she has officially unlocked the secret to getting exactly what she wants. The garden hose is brought out, and the cleaning process begins on the restless golden retriever. The situation devolves into chaos when the dog decides to shake its fur, sending a massive spray of water in every direction. Both girls end up completely drenched, standing in the middle of the yard as the dog looks on innocently. Aexu eyes the animal warily, convinced that the socially terrifying pet is plotting its next move. Momo stares back with wide, unblinking eyes, sensing a prime opportunity for more play. Aexu tries to maintain her composure, even as she feels the impending disaster approaching. Without warning, the heavy dog launches itself forward like a furry missile. Aexu is sent tumbling backward onto the grass as the dog successfully tackles her to the ground. Not wanting to be left out, Zhiyi dives into the fray, clinging to Aexu and complaining about the lack of attention. Resigned to her fate as a human jungle gym, Aexu stares into the distance with completely dead eyes. In a sudden burst of affection, Zhiyi plants a quick, grateful peck on Aexu's cheek. The designer is left in a state of total shock, looking like a dazed doll covered in water and dog fur. Later that evening, the atmosphere calms as Zhiyi clasps her hands together to make a silent birthday wish. She looks up at Aexu, asking for a solemn promise that her senior will never leave her side. Aexu gently feeds a piece of birthday cake to the girl, her heart softening at the display of vulnerability. When it's finally time for bed, Zhiyi clings to Aexu like a lifeline, refusing to let go even in her sleep. Aexu reflects on the day's events, feeling the weight of the emotional debt she's managed to accrue. She watches Zhiyi sleep, noting how the girl seems to feel truly safe and cherished in this moment. Despite the exhaustion, Aexu softly agrees to look after the younger girl, moved by her apparent sincerity. In the middle of the night, Aexu quietly slips out of bed to find the restroom. She tiptoes through the dark, quiet hallways of the massive mansion. Her mind wanders back to Zhiyi's past, wondering how she can help heal such deep-seated emotional scars. As she passes a door, she overhears the parents discussing Zhiyi's childhood habits. They laugh about how Zhiyi was a professional child star who could cry on command to get anything she wanted. Aexu stops dead in her tracks, the realization of what she's hearing slowly sinking in. Her soul practically leaves her body as she realizes she's been completely played by a masterclass acting performance once again. Zhiyi imagines her bond with Aexu is reaching legendary status after all their shared trials. However, the reality is a cold shoulder as Aexu walks right past her without a single word. In the background, coworkers whisper about how the normally inseparable duo has been silent for 3 days. A coffee cup hits the table as Zhiyi seeks desperate advice from a colleague. Her blue-haired friend mocks her, suggesting she's finally been tossed aside like an old rag. Zhiyi recalls the past 48 hours of futile begging, met only by Aexu's icy professional focus. She briefly considers turning on the waterworks again, but fears the trick won't work a second time. Sensing an opportunity, her friend offers a vital piece of company intel in exchange for the drink. Zhiyi leans in, eager for any professional edge that might win back her favorite designer. The secret is revealed. The company is finalizing a high-profile collaboration for the next quarter. A spark of ambition lights up Zhiyi's eyes as she realizes this is her chance to prove her worth. Before the colleague can even blink, Zhiyi has already bolted toward the marketing department. She sprints down the hall, ignoring the shouts about the unpaid coffee bill behind her. Meanwhile, Aexu continues her day, trying to stay submerged in her own quiet world. She is suddenly blindsided when coworkers start bombarding her with unexpected congratulations. Standing in the center of the office, Aexu is completely bewildered by the sudden applause. Her mind immediately goes to Zhiyi, wondering if this is just another elaborate psychological game. She steels her heart, determined not to let her guard down regardless of the news. A hand suddenly clamps onto her wrist, breaking her train of thought. Zhiyi appears, looking winded but triumphant, claiming she has a massive secret to share. She drags Aexu away from the prying eyes of the office to reveal the surprise, but they are interrupted by the manager, who officially confirms Aexu has been selected for the Bailing Cloud collab. The announcement details a popular music app project that perfectly suits Aexu's aesthetic. For a brief moment, the sheer joy of the career milestone washes over Aexu's face. Zhiyi, on the other hand, looks like she's seen a ghost because her big reveal was stolen. Now, in a lighter mood, Aexu asks Zhiyi what that big secret was actually supposed to be. Zhiyi stands there defeated, realizing all the late-night pitches she made for Aexu were spoiled by the boss. Aexu politely declines a celebratory dinner, still wary of being manipulated into another emotional debt. To avoid a private setting, she announces she'll be eating in the crowded cafeteria instead. The news that the office hermit is actually socializing sends the rest of the team into a frenzy of excitement. Aexu realizes her plan to avoid Zhiyi has accidentally triggered a massive social event. She glances at Zhiyi, worried that her rejection might have actually hurt her feelings this time. A single tear rolls down Zhiyi's cheek, but the reason isn't what Aexu thinks. Zhiyi is actually overwhelmed with motherly pride seeing Aexu finally making friends with coworkers. She immediately runs off to secure a cake for the group's impromptu party. Soon, the cafeteria table is overflowing with a celebratory feast for the whole team. While the office cheers and toasts with beer, Aexu sits there, socially drained and full of regret. She tells herself to stay professional and endure the crowd for the sake of the new project. She shuts her eyes, trying to visualize the character designs for the music app. Zhiyi playfully pokes her cheek, pulling her back from her deep creative trance. The official presentation for the Bailing Cloud collaboration finally begins on the big screen. The team raises their voices in one final cheer for the success of Party Chan. The screen flickers to life, revealing a round, green creature named Minnie. Aexu stares in absolute horror as she realizes the project isn't what she imagined at all. The office atmosphere turns instantly sour as the team realizes the high-budget collaboration has been swapped for a completely different mascot. Amidst the chaos, Aexu sits in silence, mechanically picking at her food while the weight of the professional setback sinks in. Overwhelmed by the public embarrassment, she hunches over her bowl, wishing she could simply vanish or erase everyone's memory of the announcement. Suddenly, a sharp notification chime cuts through her despair, pulling her focus back to the harsh reality of the workplace. The big screen in the cafeteria flickers with a new teaser, promising a brand new form for the project's original star. Whispers erupt across the room as colleagues question if the management team popped the celebratory champagne way too early. Without a word, Zhiyi reaches out and firmly grips Aexu's wrist, determined to get to the bottom of this corporate mess. She tries to lead Aexu toward the executive offices to demand a straight answer for the sudden change. But Aexu has reached her limit, violently jerking her arm away to break the physical contact. She stands her ground, her expression hardening as she declares that this project failure has nothing to do with her anymore. Turning her back on the group, she leaves her unfinished meal and the mounting drama behind. She walks away with a cold, shadowed gaze, convinced that fighting for a lost collaboration is a useless endeavor. Her footsteps echo down the quiet hallway as she heads toward the emergency exit to find a moment of solitude. Leaning against the cold wall by the door, the sheer exhaustion of the day's events begins to take a heavy toll. Her peace is shattered when she overhears Fiona shouting into a phone, demanding to know why the project was sabotaged at the last second. From the shadows, Aexu watches as Fiona fumes over the higher-ups' decision to prioritize a more popular IP over their team's hard work. Peeking through the cracked door, Aexu feels a fresh wave of bitterness knowing their entire proposal was tossed aside for a higher ranking. The tension peaks when Fiona suddenly turns around, making direct eye contact and catching Aexu eavesdropping. Fiona quickly hangs up and tries to maintain a professional front, placing a steadying hand on Aexu's shoulder to offer hollow words of encouragement. As her superior walks away, Aexu is left standing alone in the dim corridor, feeling more isolated from the team than ever. A flicker of genuine pain crosses her face as the reality of the professional betrayal finally sets in. She slips into the dark stairwell, her shoes clicking softly against the concrete steps as she seeks a place to hide. It doesn't take long for Zhiyi to track her down, finding Aexu curled into a ball on the stairs in total despair. Zhiyi rushes to her side, desperately trying to provide comfort by suggesting the collab might just be postponed to a second wave. She kneels on the floor, promising to personally investigate the contract and fix the situation for her colleague. Aexu looks away, her voice trembling as she tells Zhiyi that she doesn't want or need this kind of meddling. She confesses that the weight of Zhiyi's constant interference is becoming an impossible debt she has no way to repay. Zhiyi is visibly shaken, her face falling as her attempts to be a supportive friend are flatly rejected. Pushing herself up, Aexu makes it clear that she won't let her emotions be manipulated by these unwanted gestures. She marches away into the hallway, leaving her colleague alone on the floor as she retreats further into her own shell. Night falls over the city, the cold moonlight reflecting off the glass of the corporate high-rise. Back at home, Aexu buries herself deep under the covers, trying to hide from the memories of the disastrous day. But the echoes of the office gossip and the public humiliation continue to play on a painful loop in her mind. She stares blankly into the darkness, haunted by the thought of how ridiculous she must have looked to the entire company. Her breathing hitches as the stoic mask she wore all day finally begins to crumble in the safety of her room. She grips the edge of her blanket, her knuckles turning white as she tries to suppress the rising tide of emotion. In the silence of the night, the exhausted designer finally lets the tears fall, mourning the loss of her hard work and her pride. Aexu clings to a plushie, her eyes heavy with the weight of her recent emotional collapse. She stares into the distance, reflecting on a time when she could simply ignore the chaos of the world. However, Zhiyi's infectious and over-the-top energy has clearly left a lasting mark on her psyche. Desperate for a distraction, she attacks a pile of dirty dishes, hoping the repetitive scrubbing will clear her mind. When that fails, she turns to her workbench, obsessively customizing tiny charms to keep her hands busy. Her third attempt at a mental reset involves binge-watching multiple shows at once, though her focus remains shattered. A sudden wave of notifications from Zhiyi floods her screen, sending a jolt of panic through her chest. The attempt at a brain reboot ends in total failure as she collapses face down on the sofa in defeat. The sun rises over the city the following morning, bringing a new day but no relief for the exhausted designer. Her bloodshot, strained eyes tell the story of a night spent without a single moment of rest. She feels more frantic than ever, unable to untee the knots of anxiety tightening in her heart. Arriving at the office, a concerned colleague stops her to ask why she's the only one from her team present. Aiksu is stunned to learn that Zhiyi hasn't shown up for work for 2 days straight. She delivers a sharp smack to her own cheeks, desperate to snap out of her growing spiral of worry. She tries to convince herself that Zhiyi is an adult and will surely return to work by tomorrow. Despite her logical reasoning, her eyes reveal a deep-seated fear that something is terribly wrong. By chance, she encounters Zhiyi's relatives near the office, who assume she is there to check on the girl. Without a word of protest, they shove a bag of supplies and a spare key into her hands. Aiksu finds herself standing before Zhiyi's apartment door, the key weighing heavy in her hand. She slowly turns the lock, the soft click echoing in the quiet hallway. Stepping inside, she cautiously scans the darkened apartment for any sign of her junior. A messy table covered in used tissues immediately confirms her worst fears about Zhiyi's condition. She finds the girl buried deep under the covers, shivering violently from a severe illness. Aiksu notices a heating pad being used dangerously, threatening to skyrocket the girl's already high temperature. Zhiyi's eyes flutter open, her face flushed a deep crimson from the mounting fever. Reaching out with a steady hand, Aiksu prepares to take charge of the medical emergency. The sick girl is momentarily frozen in shock at the sight of her senior standing by her bedside. Realization hits Zhiyi like a freight train, and she becomes mortified by her disheveled appearance. She dives back under the blankets, desperately trying to hide the mess of her room and herself. Aiksu refuses to let her hide and firmly pulls the blanket back to assess the situation. She scolds the girl for wrapping herself in heat while already suffering from a dangerous fever. Zhiyi looks up with a sheepish expression, trying to explain her flawed logic for sweating out the cold. Leaning in close, Aiksu performs a manual temperature check to gauge the severity of the heat. She stands up with professional resolve, deciding she must head out to purchase proper medicine immediately. Zhiyi tries to shrink away, weakly insisting that she doesn't want her senior to catch the illness. Ignoring the protest, Aiksu gently takes hold of the girl's chin to conduct a more thorough examination. She carefully inspects the girl's throat, noting the severe inflammation caused by the infection. Zhiyi tries to shield her face, deeply embarrassed by her lack of morning hygiene during the crisis. Maintaining a strictly technical focus, Aiksu checks the girl's midsection to rule out a stomach bug. The junior can only stare in wide-eyed wonder at this version of her senior, who is being so assertive. A bowl of fresh, warm water is prepared to help the hydration process. Aiksu stands over her, insisting that drinking the water is the only way to safely break the fever. When Zhiyi proves too weak to hold a cup, Aiksu utilizes a medical syringe to administer the fluid. She uses a damp cloth to carefully wipe away the sweat, helping to regulate the girl's body heat. She remains focused on the task at hand, ensuring the girl doesn't develop a heat rash from the high temperature. Exhausted but finally feeling a sense of order, Aiksu sits by the bed to monitor the recovery. A pale, trembling hand reaches out from the sheets to find the senior's touch. Their hands meet in the quiet room as Zhiyi begins a soft, feverish apology for their past conflict. Aiksu listens in silence, the gravity of the girl's words finally sinking in. In the dim light of the apartment, Zhiyi takes full responsibility for the fallout and the wasted effort on their project. Zhiyi's trembling hands grip Aiksu's as she laments the lost opportunity. Aiksu ponders why her usual walls crumble so easily around this girl. Still bedridden, Zhiyi looks up with a gaze clouded by fever and regret. She admits her struggle with social boundaries, her face flushed with heat. Memories surface of colleagues whispering about her inability to read the room. She recalls the sting of being scolded for offering help where it wasn't wanted. Even her friends grew frustrated seeing her get dragged through the mud for others. Zhiyi leans into Aiksu, confessing she defied orders just to speak with Fiona. In the office, Fiona confirms that Zhiyi's hard work earned her a project bonus. The boss reminds her that despite the collab, her loyalty belongs to marketing. Zhiyi reflects on the pressure of meeting high management expectations. She admits her only true goal was making her senior colleagues work better. Tears spill over as she insists she's only receiving what she actually deserves. Aiksu remains stoic, focused on her popsicle while validating Zhiyi's efforts. The raw emotion of the moment leaves Zhiyi breathless and tearful. A single tear traces a path down her cheek, marking her relief. She clings to Aiksu's back, finding pure joy in this rare moment of connection. Zhiyi contrasts Aiksu's cold public mask with the warmth she shows in private. Being cared for makes her feel like the most important person in the world. Overwhelmed by the fever, she asks to share the cooling popsicle. Aiksu immediately shuts down the request, keeping a professional distance. She reaches out to check the younger girl's alarming pulse. Aiksu presses her cool palm against the heat radiating from Zhiyi's skin. Zhiyi sighs in relief as the cooling touch soothes her high temperature. The sudden physical contact sends Aiksu into a state of internal panic. Embarrassed by her own reaction, Aiksu quickly averts her gaze. She frantically switches clenches hands to regain her composure and focus. Aexu gasps when Zhiyi makes a sudden, unexpected movement toward her. Zhiyi holds Aexu's hand with a dazed, feverish intensity. Aexu freezes, her mind racing to process this shift in their dynamic. Aexu checks Zhiyi's forehead and realizes with a start that her fever has spiked dangerously in the middle of the night. Panicking, she rushes to the bookshelf to find any resource that might help lower the temperature. She quickly flips through a practical emergency handbook, searching for a fast-acting solution to the medical crisis. Aexu studies the complex instructions with intense focus, determined to follow every step of the recovery process. Her eyes narrow behind her glasses as she internalizes a specific, unconventional method for fluid replenishment. Without a second to lose, she begins the physical therapy by carefully elevating Zhiyi's legs to improve circulation. She prepares a precise dosage of fluids, ignoring Zhiyi's delirious protests to ensure the hydration treatment is successful. Zhiyi looks up with dazed, glassy eyes, her body finally beginning to react to the intensive care. Aexu looms over her patient, checking for any signs of improvement as she considers the final steps of the procedure. Suddenly, Aexu gasps for air, her eyes wide with shock as the reality of her situation shifts. She sits up in bed, realizing with immense relief that the bizarre medical emergency was nothing more than a fever dream. She looks down at the book in her hands, horrified to find she'd actually been reading a fictional manga instead of a real medical guide. Shaking off the mental fog, she leans over the sleeping Zhiyi and confirms that her fever is, in fact, still quite high. She gets to work for real this time, wringing out a cold towel to begin a proper sponge bath. With a professional demeanor, she carefully applies the cool cloth to Zhiyi's torso to draw out the excess heat. Hoping to remain as efficient as possible, she moves her focus toward the lower half of the body to maximize the cooling effect. Her eyes remain locked on the task, maintaining a clinical distance despite the intimacy of the situation. Aexu suddenly clutches her head, fighting back the intrusive thoughts from her earlier dream that keep clouding her judgment. Zhiyi remains motionless on the pillows, her complexion still flushed from the lingering illness. Pushing her doubts aside, Aexu returns to the bedside to continue the cooling therapy with a steady hand. She presses the damp cloth firmly against the skin, noting how the intense heat of the fever makes the contact feel almost magnetic. The designer recoils in a start when Zhiyi suddenly stirs and reaches out, catching her completely off guard. Zhiyi offers a weak, appreciative smile, apologizing for the immense trouble she's causing her senior during the late hour. She explains that the sweat is making her skin feel itchy, asking for a bit more help with the cooling process. Aexu stands frozen like a statue, her brain short-circuiting at the unexpected request for further assistance. Aexu turns her head away, her face burning with clinical embarrassment as she prepares for the next step of the treatment. Zhiyi remains still, her expression a mix of feverish daze and surprise at the careful precision of the medical care. Her toes curl instinctively against the sheets, reacting to the cold sensation of the damp cloth during the cooling process. Aexu lifts the cloth, finishing the upper body portion of the sponge bath with practiced efficiency. She firmly grips Zhiyi's leg to ensure the fever-reducing treatment is applied evenly across all extremities. Zhiyi's eyes widen in sudden shock as the physical contact of the medical procedure becomes more direct. In her fever-induced haze, Zhiyi imagines a soft, comforting moment of closeness that contrasts with the clinical reality. Her face flushes a deep red as she tries to process her own confusing, illness-driven thoughts. The proximity between them grows as Aexu leans in, checking for any signs of respiratory distress. Aexu hovers over her patient, maintaining a focused and protective stance to monitor her condition closely. She softly asks if the patient is still awake, checking her level of consciousness before proceeding with the next medication. Aexu presents the box of fever-reducing suppositories, the most effective way to break the high temperature quickly. Realizing the invasive nature of the upcoming medical step, Zhiyi looks absolutely mortified. The technical diagram on the packaging clearly illustrates the specific route of administration required for the medicine. Zhiyi panics and tries to scramble away, her survival instincts kicking in against the impending treatment, showing professional resolve. Aexu holds her down to ensure the life-saving medication is administered correctly. Hours later, the room is quiet as the fever finally breaks, leaving Zhiyi safely tucked under the covers. Back at the office, Aexu is hit with a sudden wave of post-care anxiety as she remembers the intensity of the night. She covers her mouth in horror, questioning if her bedside manner was perhaps a bit too forceful. To distract herself, she focuses intensely on her sketchbook, practicing complex hand anatomy for her next design project. A colleague startles her, praising her dedication to her craft, while Aexu nearly jumps out of her skin. In a fit of nervous energy, she frantically crumples up her sketches to hide her wandering thoughts. Suddenly, a fully recovered Zhiyi bursts into the office, greeting the team with her usual high-spirited energy. Terrified of an awkward confrontation, Aexu ducks behind her computer monitor to avoid eye contact. Zhiyi leans over the desk with a playful smile, catching the designer completely off guard. As Aexu fumbles with her things, the crumpled ball of paper rolls across the floor toward Zhiyi's feet. Zhiyi tilts her head, wondering why her colleague is acting so strangely after their night of medical recovery. She leans in close to investigate the designer's red face, causing Aexu's heart to race with professional panic. Overwhelmed by the proximity, Aexu loses her balance and tips backward in her office chair. Concerned that the fever might have spread, Zhiyi places a hand on Aexu's forehead to check her temperature. The sudden contact causes Aexu's internal stress levels to reach a boiling point, manifesting as a chaotic shadow. Without a word, the designer bolts from the room at top speed, leaving a trail of confusion in her wake. Zhiyi watches her run off, calling out to ask if they are still on for their scheduled lunch break. She pauses, her gaze falling back to the floor where the discarded paper lies. Curious about what was so important to hide, she reaches down and picks up the crumpled sketch. She slowly smoothes out the wrinkles, revealing the detailed anatomical drawings hidden inside. She stares at the paper in stunned silence, finally realizing what Aexu was really thinking about during her practice session. Aexu is desperate, tearing through the office trash as she searches for her missing, incriminating sketch. She crawls under the desks, her heart racing as she scans every inch of the floor for the lost paper. When she asks around, her colleague confirms that no one has seen any stray drawings today. Panic reaches a fever pitch as Aexu frantically searches near the workstations, certain she dropped it nearby. She waves her hands in a frantic blur, terrified that if Zhiyi finds her erotic diary sketch, her professional reputation is over. Suddenly, the very woman she's avoiding leans in, catching Aexu completely off guard with her proximity. Zhiyi gently touches her face, noting that her senior's ears are burning up with a suspicious fever. With a playful glint in her eyes, Zhiyi asks exactly what was lost, making Aexu wonder if she's being toyed with on purpose. Aexu's mind spirals, imagining her hard-earned dignity crumbling into dust if the truth comes out. Zhiyi leans in even closer to whisper a teasing senior right into her ear, sending Aexu into a total tailspin. Breaking under the pressure, Aexu practically teleports away, declaring she must remain as disciplined as a monk to survive this. As Zhiyi stumbles back from the sudden rejection, a firm hand catches her shoulder to keep her steady. A tall, elegant woman named Chen Kuai close stands before them, shocking Zhiyi with her sudden appearance. Aexu watches from the sidelines, confused and wondering if this newcomer is just another one of Zhiyi's many friends. Zhiyi beams at the surprise reunion, clearly thrilled to see such a familiar face in the middle of the office. While the two catch up, Aexu tries to hide her face, still reeling from the earlier tension. Chloe turns her sharp focus toward Aexu, identifying her as the creative lead behind the Party Chan project. She extends a professional invitation, suggesting they discuss the work while taking a short walk. Chloe grills her on the deep inspiration behind her designs, but a flustered Aexu can only offer a generic response about it just being a job. Aexu's hands tremble as she realizes she's failing to impress this high-powered executive. She looks up, sensing a shift in the atmosphere that feels far from friendly. Chloe stares back with a cold, disappointed gaze, stating that Aexu is far less artistic than her work suggested. The harsh critique hits like a physical blow, literally petrifying the poor designer where she stands. A metaphorical storm cloud forms over Aexu as she wallows in the gloom of her social failure. However, Zhiyi returns with a bright smile, oblivious to the soul-crushing conversation that just occurred. She throws her arms up in celebration, declaring that her promotional plan actually worked perfectly. It turns out Chloe is a major partnership manager for the famous Angel Code makeup brand, and she's scouting for a collaboration. As Chloe walks away, the gravity of the high-stakes opportunity begins to sink in for the team. Zhiyi is too busy glowing with pride, desperately making a face that begs for praise over the incredible engagement numbers. She practically wags an imaginary tail, waiting for Aexu to acknowledge her hard work with a head pat. Zhiyi shows off the high-quality footage she captured of the intricate dollhouse accessories Aexu built. The camera zooms in on the stunningly detailed, custom face-ups that Aexu painted for her dolls. Zhiyi grabs Aexu's hands, excitedly explaining that the video's popularity has already shot into the top 3. She pulls out her phone to show the designer exactly why the internet is going crazy for her craftsmanship. With a confident wink, Zhiyi reassures her that she didn't leak her actual face to the world. Instead, the viral video features Aexu working while a giant, cartoonish duck head mask covers her identity. Aexu stares at the screen in horror, realizing she has officially become a viral meme. Zhiyi smiles at the success, confident that Chloe will eventually fall in love with the brand's potential. But Aexu can't shake the feeling of inadequacy, her eyes reflecting her deep inner turmoil. She looks away, the echo of Chloe's words about her being uninteresting haunting her thoughts. Standing alone in the shadow of the office, she fears her social awkwardness might have just ruined their biggest chance at success. The office manager suddenly bursts through the door, her expression serious as she prepares to deliver some news. She quickly calls Aexu and the rest of the design team together for an immediate, unscheduled meeting. The sudden pressure sends Aexu into a total state of panic, her heart racing at the thought of an ambush presentation. Zhiyi leans in close to offer her support, trying to steady the trembling designer before they head inside. In her mind, Aexu feels like a tiny mouse desperately trying to protect her ideas from being snatched away. Zhiyi firmly takes Aexu's hands in hers, determined to help her senior find some much-needed composure. To combat the stage fright, Zhiyi prepares to utilize a bizarre stress relief technique she discovered on a health forum. She applies the unconventional internet hack to Aexu's palm, claiming the enzymes will instantly soothe her frayed nerves. The sudden, strange sensation leaves Aexu completely stunned, her brain short-circuiting from the unexpected gesture. Moments later, the meeting begins with Aexu delivering a surprisingly professional pitch regarding high-end product lines. However, a hidden script beneath her desk reveals that she is simply reading Zhiyi's carefully prepared marketing points. Despite her outward composure, Aexu's mind is a total blank as she remains distracted by the lingering scent of Zhiyi's strawberry lip balm. Chloe remains unimpressed, tapping her finger rhythmically on the table as she critiques the lack of originality in the sketches. Standing tall, the executive makes it clear that they aren't interested in sentiment, only in designs that can dominate the mainstream market. She lectures the room on the power of aggressive marketing, citing how even the greatest artists needed massive investment to become icons. With a cold gaze, she demands a pitch that will actually ignite the market, leaving the entire team in a heavy, awkward silence. Chloe turns to the manager and voices her disappointment, claiming these artists lack the necessary ambition to succeed in this industry. Without another word, she turns on her heel and exits the room, her sharp boots clicking against the floor. As the rest of the team leaves in a state of frustration, Aexu stands alone, feeling the weight of her perceived failure. Zhiyi gently pokes her cheek, trying to pull her senior out of the gloomy atmosphere following the harsh critique. She explains that Chloe has always maintained impossibly high standards, even back when they were students together. Back at her desk, Aexu stares at her screen with renewed focus, determined to stop being a burden to her colleagues. Zhiyi enthusiastically suggests that they should do whatever it takes to gain popularity, even if it means trying something radical. She playfully proposes a face reveal or a themed costume stream to boost their engagement numbers. Aexu is momentarily horrified by the suggestion, her social anxiety flaring up at the thought of being on camera. She immediately shuts down the idea, crossing her arms and insisting that a face reveal is strictly off the table. As she begins to melt from the stress of finding a middle ground, Zhiyi mentions that DIY dollhouse videos are currently trending. Something clicks in Aexu's mind, and she realizes that building dollhouses is a craft she can actually master. She immediately grabs a discarded cardboard box and begins to demonstrate her precise structural design skills. With expert movements, she folds and manipulates the plain material into a complex, miniature form. She presents a perfect paper mock-up to Zhiyi, proving that even simple materials can be turned into something professional. Overjoyed by the genius idea, Zhiyi grabs the model and prepares to rush off to show Chloe the new packaging concept. Aexu quickly lunges forward to stop her, wrapping her arms around Zhiyi to prevent another impulsive confrontation. The two share a quiet moment of focus as they realize the potential of this new creative direction. Zhiyi looks back at her partner, promising that this time, she will let Aexu be the one calling the shots. They soon launch a high-quality tutorial video, showcasing the step-by-step assembly of the paper dollhouse series. A viewer's cursor hovers over the play button, ready to engage with the viral duck head content. The video is a massive hit, featuring the iconic duck-masked persona presenting a finished, high-end display diorama. Aexu and Zhiyi scream in pure shock as they watch the view count explode past 500,000 in less than a day. They huddled together in the glow of the phone screen, reading through the flood of positive comments from the design community. Their celebration is interrupted by a phone call from Chloe, who is suddenly very interested in the dollhouse system she saw online. Both girls freeze in absolute disbelief as Chloe demands to meet at Aexu's apartment to see the work in person immediately. The team gathers at a local brunch cafe to finalize the technical details of their high-stakes collaboration. Chloe wastes no time, immediately diving into the logistical requirements for the makeup-themed dollhouse packaging. Despite the pressure, Aexu struggles to maintain her professional composure, while Zhiyi tries to keep the atmosphere light. Aexu presents her initial sketches, hoping they meet the executive's rigorous industry standards. Chloe delivers a sharp critique, pointing out that custom shapes are a nightmare for shipping and retail display. Zhiyi watches closely, concerned that Chloe's intense professional aura might overwhelm her partner. Pivoting instantly, Aexu proposes an ingenious design, where the packaging unfolds into functional miniature furniture. The brilliant suggestion catches Zhiyi completely off guard, filling her with pride for her designer's technical growth. Watching Aexu hold her own in the negotiation, Zhiyi realizes her friend is becoming a formidable professional. When Chloe questions her stamina, Aexu firmly declares her readiness to pull all-nighters to get the job done. Once the topic of budget and contracts arises, the social anxiety finally hits Aexu, leaving her visibly trembling. Zhiyi checks her messages, seeing the massive wave of interest sparked by their recent viral video content. Using the viral success as leverage, Zhiyi coolly informs Chloe that other brands are already lining up with offers. The bold negotiation tactic leaves the usually stoic Chloe stunned by the team's sudden market value. Recognizing the talent before her, Chloe stands up to take the revised proposal back to her superiors. She adjusts her glasses with a smirk, determined to secure the exclusive contract before any competitors can strike. After the successful meeting, the duo shares a quiet moment of relief and professional triumph. They walk together, their bond strengthened by the significant business victory they just secured. As night falls over the city, the weight of the new project's responsibilities begins to set in. Back at the apartment, the quiet atmosphere does little to calm a mind racing with design ideas. Aeksu lies awake in bed, her heart pounding from the sheer adrenaline of the day's breakthrough. She glances at the sleeping Zhiyi, convincing herself that her excitement is strictly due to the successful collaboration. Unable to rest, she heads to her workstation to clear her head through hands-on design work. She reaches for her sculpting materials, determined to find the perfect texture for her next dollhouse prototype. Little mental versions of herself cheer her on, urging her to focus solely on the technical craft. She begins kneading the soft clay, testing its density and tactile response for the miniature accessories. Every squeeze is a calculated move to understand how the material will behave under high-pressure manufacturing. She sets a test piece aside, dissatisfied with how the synthetic material compares to natural textures. A sudden realization hits her regarding the physical properties needed for a premium product feel. Exhaustion finally starts to catch up as she slumps over her desk in the dim light of the workspace. She stands up with sudden intensity, her mind racing to find a better reference material to perfect her design. Aeksu paces restlessly, debating if a late-night burst of inspiration is worth the loss of sleep. She focuses on the movement of her hand, contemplating the delicate balance of pressure needed for high-end crafting. As she reaches toward the bed to adjust her surroundings, her focus remains entirely on her work. She suddenly stops as her gaze falls upon a professional bag hidden beside the mattress. Peeking inside, she finds a stack of documents detailing the true history of the failed cloud collaboration. Sitting on the floor, the weight of the discovery hits her as she realizes the depth of the professional secrets kept from her. She recalls Zhiyi's genuine concern, finally seeing the emotional toll the partnership has taken on both of them. The memory of a vulnerable Zhiyi flashes through her mind, emphasizing the bond of trust they are trying to rebuild. Overwhelmed by the emotional stakes of their work together, Aeksu curls up, determined to protect the partnership they've built. The office is a hive of activity as the PR department synchronizes the final countdown for the upcoming launch. Aeksu tries to focus on her monitor, hoping for a moment of peace now that the official collaboration contract is signed. However, the weight of her hidden discovery becomes too much, and she collapses onto her desk in a fit of exhaustion. She stares blankly ahead, her mind racing as she grapples with the best way to handle the situation. Her gaze drifts toward Zhiyi's desk, where the documents she considers evidence of a past betrayal sit in plain sight. She vividly remembers the panic of holding that stolen drawing at night, paralyzed by the choice to confront her partner or stay silent. The anxiety of the secret causes her to break into a nervous sweat as she struggles to maintain her composure. Ultimately, she recalls the moment she decided to quietly return the paper to the bag to avoid an awkward confrontation. Back in the present, she slumps over her workstation, feeling the crushing weight of her own guilt. She finds it nearly impossible to make eye contact with Zhiyi, who remains completely oblivious to the tension. Zhiyi laughs brightly while chatting about their past trips, her cheerful energy filling the room. Watching her, Aeksu can't help but admire how radiant and effortless her partner appears under the office lights. Suddenly, she smacks her own face with both hands, desperate to snap out of her daze and return to reality. Inside her mind, a tiny drill sergeant blows a whistle to demand immediate order and discipline. This mental instructor points to a whiteboard, lecturing Aeksu on the absolute necessity of maintaining professional self-control. Zhiyi stands up to stretch after a long session of marketing analysis, her silhouette framed by the glowing windows. She comments on the sudden drop in temperature, noting how the cold weather has increased her appetite lately. Aeksu continues to observe her colleague's professional poise, noting how her posture reflects a perfect design aesthetic. The internal struggle to stay focused becomes overwhelming, threatening to crack Aeksu's stoic facade. Later, the elevator display flashes a warning that the car is already crowded as it arrives on their floor. The two are squeezed tightly against the other passengers, forced into uncomfortably close proximity by the morning rush. Zhiyi looks over her shoulder at her senior, surprised by the sudden density of the crowd. In the crush of people, Aeksu's hand accidentally brushes against Zhiyi's waist as she tries to find her balance. Aeksu immediately begins stammering an apology, her face turning bright red from the accidental contact. Mortified by her own clumsiness, she quickly shoves both hands deep into her pockets to keep them under control. Meanwhile, Chloe remains focused on the task at hand, carefully reviewing the market response schedule. During a technical briefing, Aeksu and Zhiyi stand side by side, their hands accidentally meeting over a set of documents. They both freeze in surprise, looking down at the unintended contact during the presentation. Zhiyi offers a warm smile, explaining that a designer's hands must be kept warm to maintain their creative sensitivity. As night falls over the city, the office building remains illuminated by the glow of late-night overtime. On the computer screen, the progress bar for the new product video slowly ticks toward completion. A notification finally pops up to confirm that the high-resolution upload is officially complete. The marketing team erupts in cheers, celebrating Zhiyi's versatility in handling the video editing herself. One of the staff members notices the time and announces that it is finally time to head home. Aeksu remains at her desk, appearing exhausted as she claims the partner requirements are just too strict to leave yet. Internally, she is screaming with embarrassment, unable to admit she spent the last half hour completely zoned out. The coworkers gather around her, offering to help since she seems so stressed about the Angel Code manager. Zhiyi leans in with a friendly, supportive gesture, insisting that her senior join them for a quick meal at the convenience store. The sudden proximity leaves Aexu completely flustered, her heart racing as she feels the warmth of the gesture. The group begins to head toward the exit, surprised that their usually stoic designer is actually coming along. The marketing team looks on in total shock, amazed that they finally managed to break Aexu's streak of rejections. Zhiyi beams with delight, thrilled that her senior is finally willing to join in on the team's daily routine. Aexu's mind reels as she wonders what she just agreed to after the shock of a sudden, overwhelming hug. Under the cool glow of the city lights, the team settles into a local convenience store to recharge after a long day, while the rest of the crew digs into their late-night snacks. Aexu struggles to maintain her usual stoic composure amidst the exhaustion. Zhiyi leans in close, mentioning that she's noticed Aexu's recent habit of seeking out more frequent physical contact during their work sessions. Startled by the observation, Aexu nearly chokes on her food as cold sweat begins to pour down her face. She frantically tries to keep her head down, focusing entirely on her meal to hide her growing panic from her colleagues. Sensing the tension, Zhiyi decides to lighten the mood while Aexu feels herself physically melting from the social pressure. With a bright, cheerful smile, Zhiyi presents a beautifully wrapped gift box as a token of professional appreciation. She carefully pulls on the pink ribbon, building anticipation for the technical surprise hidden inside. The box pops open to reveal a high-quality, articulated mannequin hand designed for precise technical drawing reference. Aexu stares at the specialized tool in genuine shock, her analytical mind momentarily short-circuiting at the gesture. Zhiyi clasps her hands together, explaining that she bought the gift to assist with Aexu's difficult anatomy and hand-drawing studies. Holding the wooden hand, Aexu feels a rare wave of gratitude for her coworkers' thoughtful support of her craft. Zhiyi beams with pride, happy to see that her investment in Aexu's professional development is well received. Aexu's eyes dart toward the sketchbook Zhiyi is holding, realizing she needs to retrieve her private practice work immediately. She clears her throat awkwardly, trying to find the right words to ask for the book back without raising any suspicion. Pointing a shaky finger at the folder, Aexu asks if she can borrow the material for a quick technical review. Internally, she's already planning a mission to destroy any evidence of her embarrassing sketches once the book is safely back in her hands. Zhiyi's hand slams down on the cover, firmly signaling that she isn't ready to let go of the item just yet. With a playful glint in her eye, Zhiyi flatly refuses to hand over the precious reference material she found. Zhiyi leans in to whisper a confidential remark, cornering Aexu with an intense and knowing look. The proximity is overwhelming as she teases her about the highly detailed anatomical sketches she discovered inside the book. Zhiyi clutches the book tightly to her chest, declaring her intention to keep the artistic studies as a permanent keepsake. Aexu is completely paralyzed, turning into a literal stone statue as her secret hobby is fully exposed. Noticing the extreme reaction, Zhiyi tilts her head in curiosity at her coworker's sudden and dramatic rigidity. When Aexu tries to make a break for the exit, Zhiyi quickly intercepts her with a firm, friendly restraint to keep her from fleeing. Zhiyi continues her playful interrogation, questioning if Aexu's recent actions were truly just part of her practice. She stares directly into Aexu's eyes, challenging her to maintain her professional facade under such close scrutiny. Overwhelmed by the social confrontation, Aexu's face turns a bright shade of red as she completely loses the ability to speak. The two find themselves alone in the quiet hallway of the office building as the long workday finally winds down. Aexu's inner consciousness is in a state of total meltdown, unable to process the day's chaotic and emotional events. Zhiyi maintains her close proximity, ensuring Aexu doesn't try to dodge their important conversation again. The empty stalls of the company restroom stand silent as the late-night lights begin to dim across the floor. Aexu looks up with wide, vulnerable eyes, completely at a loss for how to handle this shift in their dynamic. Zhiyi pulls her into a warm, supportive embrace, offering comfort and solidarity after their successful project launch. Aexu freezes in shock as Zhiyi pulls her into an unexpected, firm embrace. Under the cover of the dim lighting, she cautiously rests her hand against the marketer's back. Zhiyi shifts her gaze, bringing their faces within inches of each other. Overwhelmed by the proximity, Aexu quickly hides her face against Zhiyi's shoulder. She blushes furiously, feeling like a shy animal caught in a trap. Eventually, she gives in, burying her head deeper to hide her embarrassment. The intense warmth makes it feel as though the two are melting together. Aexu realizes this physical connection feels vastly different from any previous encounter. This triggers a memory of her childhood, where she always maintained a strict distance from others. She recalls a teacher once explaining that human connection is the key to being social. For years, she preferred studying anatomy through books rather than real-world interaction. Now she finally understands the true weight and comfort of a simple hug. Her hand instinctively tightens, gripping Zhiyi's clothing for support. Zhiyi playfully encourages her to relax and experience the practical study session. The designer remains paralyzed by the soft reality of their professional closeness. Zhiyi gasps as the sudden contact creates a sharp, ticklish sensation. Ayexu looks up, her eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and nerves. An accidental, sudden nip leaves Zhiyi startled and crying out in surprise. Outside the door, the rest of the team begins searching for the missing duo. Hiding in a stall, Ayexu panics while Zhiyi shouts out a quick stomach-ache excuse. Once the colleagues leave, an awkward silence settles over the small space. Zhiyi leans back in, refusing to let the flustered designer escape her teasing. She points to a faint mark, joking about Ayexu's surprisingly intense study methods. The sheer mortification causes Ayexu's spirit to practically depart from her body. Zhiyi dismisses the tension, claiming the encounter was merely for creative inspiration. As they depart, Ayexu secretly wishes the embrace had lasted just a bit longer. Their feet remain rooted in place, the air thick with the realization of how close they've become. Zhiyi wears a soft, wistful expression, secretly wishing they could have stayed in that quiet moment just a heartbeat longer. Ayexu can't bring herself to meet her gaze, her face flushing a deep crimson as the weight of the interaction sinks in. She begins to wonder if she's finally starting to crave the very intimacy she used to fear. She recalls the bitter memories of her past social failures, where she stood frozen and awkward in the middle of a crowd. The harsh whispers of others calling her uncool still echo in the back of her mind. In her wildest daydreams, she reinvents herself as the ruler of the night, a charismatic socialite who commands the room with absolute grace. She imagines a world where she is the bold one, catching a surprised Zhiyi completely off guard. In this fantasy, she leans in with confidence, challenging her senior to maintain a professional composure. But reality hits hard as the shadows of a massive crowd loom over the exhibition center. Thousands of fans have gathered, all eagerly demanding a moment with the designer of the new series. Overwhelmed by the pressure, Ayexu huddles in the shadows of the lounge, desperately wishing to become invisible. Shivering under her hoodie, she realizes that her temporary boost in confidence has completely evaporated. To understand how she got here, we have to look back at the preparations from just 24 hours ago. The official countdown for the Party-chan Encounter series was finally at its last day. Zhiyi gives the boss an enthusiastic thumbs up, promising to handle all the on-site coordination herself. The manager is surprised to see how composed Ayexu appears to be ahead of such a high-stakes event. Ayexu leans peacefully against Zhiyi's shoulder, feeling an unnatural sense of calm as long as they are together. She dives into the manual labor of assembling the booth, using the physical work to distract her from the coming storm. In her mind, Zhiyi has become a protective deity, a source of serenity that shields her from all social anxiety. The digital clock begins its final, merciless countdown toward the opening of the doors. Ayexu admires the finished product, momentarily distracted by the cute figure in her hands. As the final second ticks down, the team moves to their positions, leaving Ayexu to face the front. The floodgates open, and a literal sea of people surges into the hall with terrifying energy. Her internal crowd density meter spikes to a catastrophic 500% as she freezes in place. Panic sets in as she realizes her safety net is gone, and she frantically searches for any sign of Zhiyi. Staff members try to steady her, explaining that Zhiyi had to leave to maintain order elsewhere. The realization that she has to sign and draw for the public sends Ayexu into a total mental spiral. She can already see the future social media posts mocking her abstract and messy handwriting. Her anxiety manifests as a vision of a public trial, where she's judged for her perceived lack of talent. The line of fans stretches out endlessly, each one waiting for a personal touch from the creator. Elsewhere, other characters discuss the massive success of the exhibition, unaware of the crisis unfolding at the booth. Completely broken by the pressure, Ayexu begs for the only thing that can save her, a locked bathroom stall to hide in. Ayexu hunches over her laptop in a dark room, her exhausted face illuminated only by the glow of the screen as she works through the night. As a shooting star streaks across the night sky, she drifts into a whimsical dream of soaring freely above the sleeping city. In her imagination, she seeks refuge beneath a giant white sheet, desperate to hide away from the crushing weight of reality for just a moment. Her mind wanders to a world of luxury and sweets, where she is the princess of her own story, entitled to escape whenever she pleases. Back in the real world, Ayexu lingers nervously near the lounge, her internal monologue echoing her desperate desire to retreat from the crowd. She adopts a sneaky posture, trying to shrink her presence as she weaves through the bustling hallway unnoticed. Her social anxiety manifests as a terrifying vision of angry fans surrounding her, pointing fingers and demanding refunds for her work. Sweat beads on her forehead as she clings to her bag, questioning why a simple designer is forced to face such an overwhelming public spectacle. The sheer scale of the event hall and the massive lines of fans waiting for her signature only amplify her growing sense of dread. On the main stage, Zhiyi commands the crowd's attention, enthusiastically promoting the new merchandise with a mascot-themed presentation. She holds up a quirky duck mask, explaining that every participant has a chance to win this unique accessory. Zhiyi demonstrates the mask's identity switch feature, showing how it can transform anyone into an anonymous passerby in an instant. With a triumphant pose, she rallies the fans to form a ducky army, turning the event into a playful, collective experience. Ayexu stares at the duck mask in her own bag, finally understanding why Zhiyi made sure she had one before the event started. A soft smile crosses her face as she realizes this mask is her shield, allowing her to observe the world without being seen. She envisions herself as just one of many identical ducks, perfectly camouflaged and free to slip away whenever the pressure becomes too much. With a newfound sense of security, she carefully pulls the elastic strap over her head to secure the mask in place. Now hidden behind the plastic beak, she notices a suspicious man in a black cap cornering an innocent-looking girl. The man leans in close, trying to coerce the girl into buying a lucky VIP ticket for an exorbitant price. Aeksu freezes in horror as she realizes she's witnessing a scalper preying on a fan right under her nose. The scalper turns up the pressure, lying that the designer might leave at any moment to force the girl into a quick, panicked purchase. The girl reaches into her bag to pull out her wallet, clearly falling for the scammer's high-pressure tactics. Aeksu's heart races as she remembers how hard Zhiyi worked to implement rules against these very exploiters. She hesitates for a split second, her internal conflict visible in her wide, uncertain gaze behind the mask. Seeing the girl's genuine excitement to meet her favorite designer makes Aeksu realize she can't just stand by and watch. Her imagination runs wild with dark scenarios of what might happen if this criminal isn't stopped immediately. Stealing her resolve, she decides to find a security guard to intervene and put an end to the illegal transaction. She lunges forward with unexpected speed, accidentally slamming right into the scalper's back. The force of the collision sends Aeksu reeling backward, her world spinning as she loses her balance. She stumbles awkwardly through the crowd, nearly knocking over other attendees in her desperate attempt to stay upright. The impact is jarring, and she feels the wind knocked out of her as she clatters into the surrounding equipment. The commotion draws the eyes of everyone nearby, including the startled girl who was about to be scammed. Terrified of the attention, Aeksu bows repeatedly, her voice trembling as she offers a frantic apology to anyone listening. Sensing the heat, the scalper pulls his cap low and makes a break for it, weaving through the gaps in the crowd. Aeksu watches him flee, knowing that if he escapes now, he'll just find another victim to exploit. Zhiyi spots the masked Aeksu from the stage, instantly reading the panic in her senior's eyes. Without a word, Aeksu points a trembling finger toward the running man, signaling his direction to her partner. She finds her voice and bellows a command for help, her shout cutting through the noise of the convention hall. Zhiyi reacts with lightning-fast reflexes, her boot catching the edge of the stage as she prepares to launch. She dabs through the air with the grace of a professional athlete, closing the distance to the target in seconds. The scalper looks over his shoulder, his eyes widening in pure terror as he realizes he's being hunted. With a thunderous crash, Zhiyi tackles the man to the floor, using her momentum to pin him down instantly. She looks up with a cold, piercing stare, her professional composure unshaken as she secures the site of the disturbance. The succubus locks onto her target through the art studio window. Aeksu is at her breaking point, her mind racing after nearly 4 days without sleep. She recalls her teammates abandoning her to go for a walk during the deadline crunch. Another partner has completely vanished, ignoring all calls while hiding away. The rest of the group wasted time screaming over conflicting design ideas. Seizing the moment, the succubus tries to lure the exhausted artist into taking a break. She reaches out toward the trembling, overworked student. Disaster strikes as the succubus trips, sending the massive sculpture crashing to the floor. Both stand paralyzed as Aeksu's entire grade shatters into pieces. The intruder desperately tries to gather the fragments to fix the mess. Aeksu's aura turns murderous as she decides the intruder will become her new project. Pushed to the brink, Aeksu pivots her entire artistic direction to save her grade. She firmly secures her new model's leg to begin the intricate rigging process. After hours of intense labor, Aeksu completes her avant-garde installation, using the shattered remains. The succubus collapses in defeat, realizing she's been turned into a live art prop for the exam. A suspicious man bolts through the crowd, desperate to escape the scene of his crime. He glances back in sheer terror as something descends from the ceiling with frightening speed. With a thunderous crash, the succubus drops from the sky and pins the culprit to the floor. She looks down with a calm, ethereal gaze, barely breaking a sweat after the high-speed hunt. Watching from the sidelines, Aeksu is instantly struck by a metaphorical arrow of pure admiration for her assistant's skills. Underneath her duck mask, Aeksu's face flushes a deep crimson as her heart skips a beat in excitement. The succubus waves triumphantly to her senior, keeping her foot firmly planted on the scammer's back to prevent any escape. Aeksu stands frozen, marveling at how perfectly her partner understood her unspoken signal amidst the chaos. Adjusting her glasses, she realizes they share a professional connection deeper than she ever imagined. In a blur of motion, the succubus leaps forward with supernatural grace to return to her side. She throws her arms around Aeksu in a crushing, celebratory embrace to mark their victory. Looking up with a playful sparkle in her eyes, she asks for a reward for being such a helpful assistant. Aeksu pulls out a marker, ready to grant her partner a unique commemorative token. She carefully focuses on the task, drawing a custom doodle directly onto the girl's hand as a badge of honor. The succubus beams with pride, showing off the exclusive art as if it were a priceless treasure. However, the moment is interrupted as the captured man begins to shout and cause a scene. Security arrives on the scene, forcing the struggling tourist into custody for further investigation. Aeksu watches the unfolding drama from a distance, her brow furrowed with concern. The surrounding watching crowd whispers in confusion as a purple-haired girl watches the arrest with a heavy heart. The girl's self-esteem plummets like a discarded toy as she regrets her desperate actions. The scammer screams at the top of his lungs, threatening to sue the staff and expose them on the internet. Hidden behind her mask, Aexu sweats, worried that the public scene will damage the event's reputation. Suddenly, the purple-haired girl steps forward, bravely offering to testify against the criminal. She presents her phone as evidence, showing the exorbitant price the scammer tried to charge her for a ticket. After providing the proof, she steals a nervous glance toward the mysterious artist in the duck mask. She bows low in a sincere apology, taking full responsibility for her impulsive mistake. With a sad smile, she explains how she's always struggled with terrible luck in every aspect of her life. She clutches her shirt, where a small pin of her favorite idol sits as her only source of comfort. The authorities lead the scammer away in chains, while the succubus watches the resolution with interest. The dejected fan begins to walk away, convinced she's ruined her chances of ever meeting her hero. Aexu reaches out a hand, unable to let a true fan leave in such a state of total despair. She pauses for a moment, searching for a way to reward the girl's honesty without showing favoritism. The succubus intervenes with a bright smile, introducing herself as a staff member to put the girl at ease. She invites the fan to participate in a special promotional video for the toy exhibition. As a token of appreciation for her help, Aexu steps forward to hand the girl a small, mysterious gift. The fan's eyes nearly pop out of her head as she realizes the weight of what she's holding. It is an ultra-rare, limited edition character keychain that is usually impossible to find. Tears of joy well up as she realizes her lifelong string of bad luck has finally been broken. As she watches the pair walk away, a shocking realization starts to dawn on her mind. Struck by a bolt of pure inspiration, she realizes she just received a personal gift from the legendary designer herself. A hand steadies the camera as the crowd gathers for a final commemorative shot. It's a sea of yellow as the entire group poses in matching duck masks to keep the designer's identities a complete secret. Aexu reflects on past events where everything from sudden illnesses to chaotic crowds nearly ruined the experience. Clutching her miniature figure, Aexu lets out a sigh of relief that today finally went according to plan. Her assistant explains that the masks were the perfect tactical choice to blend in and avoid any unwanted attention. Reaching out with newfound confidence, Aexu prepares to offer a gesture of true appreciation. The assistant pauses, visibly moved by the sudden shift in her partner's demeanor. Hand in hand, the duo stands together, finally feeling like a synchronized team after the long exhibition. Their masks clink together as Aexu leans in to whisper a heartfelt thank you for all the hard work. She grips her hand tightly, showing a level of resolve and gratitude she's never expressed before. Under the mask, Aexu's face glows with a genuine smile, realizing just how much her partner has changed her life. Seeing this sincerity, the assistant's eyes soften, touched by the depth of their professional bond. Overwhelmed with emotion, the assistant struggles to find the words to respond to such a kind sentiment. Suddenly, the enthusiastic crowd surges forward, accidentally bumping the two closer together. The camera flashes at the exact moment their masks collide, capturing a hilarious and misunderstood interaction. Within minutes, the accidental mask collision goes viral, setting the internet ablaze with speculation about the mysterious duo. Back at her apartment, the city lights hum as one particular fan remains glued to her screen. The purple-haired girl scrolls through the trending photos, her mind racing with a sense of familiarity. She remembers the exact moment those two mysterious staff members handed her the rare gift. Her eyes go wide as she realizes the duck-headed stars of the viral photo are the same people she met. Driven by curiosity, she dives into old livestream archives to cross-reference their outfits and movements. She pauses the video, noticing a detail that might finally reveal the true identity of her idols. Meanwhile, Aexu and her assistant walk through the city, enjoying a rare moment of peace after their massive success. The assistant beams with joy, noting that even people outside the hobby are talking about their project. Aexu watches her partner's excitement, feeling proud that their collaboration has reached such heights. Above them, a massive 3D billboard showcases their Party-chan creation for the entire world to see. The assistant encourages Aexu to stand tall and take pride in the incredible work they've accomplished. However, the sudden spotlight triggers Aexu's social anxiety, making her wish she could vanish into the shadows. Memories of past social blunders rush back, making the idea of a public celebration feel like a nightmare. To help her relax, the assistant brings her to Selfie Queen, a private studio designed for high-end photography. She leans in to explain that this private session is the perfect way to capture professional promotional material without a crowd. It's a strategic move to find new creative inspiration in a controlled, professional environment. Aexu imagines the technical aspects of the shoot, wondering if she can handle the pressure of being the model. The assistant presents a specialized outfit, explaining how the fabric and design will pop on camera. As she details the technical requirements for the poses, the proximity makes Aexu's nerves spike. A gentle hand reaches out to steady Aexu, focusing her attention back on the professional task at hand. With a steady gaze, The assistant promises to guide her through every technical step of the photography session. Aexu blushes intensely at her senior's overwhelming praise. Her heart races with excitement over the perceived confession. Zhiyi leans in, offering to wear any style Aexu desires. She knows Aexu's artistic drive makes her impossible to refuse. Aexu reflects on her usual habit of wearing plain clothes. Her mind wanders toward more personal, distracting thoughts today. She hopes a stylish change might finally impress Zhiyi. Zhiyi excitedly pushes her to pick out the first outfit. They look at a frilly dress that seems far too bold for the shoot. Aexu points toward a more conservative option instead. Zhiyi presents the technical padding required for the specialized dresses. Aexu questions the reliability of the adhesive equipment. Zhiyi explains the technical benefits of push-up pads for backless outfits. A flustered Aexu tries to handle the adjustments herself. She remembers a previous time Zhiyi helped her with clothing. Aexu wonders if the close contact is purely professional. Aexu steps out wearing a sleek, dark blue ensemble. Zhiyi waves off help, handling her own wardrobe adjustments. The designer feels a brief moment of dejected silence. She finds the solo costume change creates an awkward atmosphere. Zhiyi enters work mode, posing professionally for the shoot. Aexu follows directions, lying down within the cage prop. Zhiyi reaches for her hand to guide the artistic pose. Aexu considers the unique perspective of the cage's composition. She captures a photo of Zhiyi's impressive professional focus. The duo poses together for a complex, multi-layered shot. Aexu notes the physical warmth of their close proximity. She finds herself appreciating the comfort of their shared moment. The camera's shutter clicks rhythmically as the ring light illuminates the high-quality mobile setup. Zhiyi maintains a professional grip on her partner, questioning if the seated posture is actually comfortable for the shot. Reviewing the screen, Zhiyi is thrilled to see how natural and candid the latest capture looks. While Zhiyi admires the work, Aexu stands back, her mind racing with thoughts about the intensity of their collaboration. A deep blush creeps across Aexu's face as she realizes how much she enjoyed that brief moment of professional closeness. Her internal monologue screams in panic, frustrated that she didn't linger in the embrace a little longer. She feels a wave of embarrassment, knowing it would be way too awkward to ask for another hug now that the shoot is done. She recalls a previous moment of comfort, wishing she could just sink back into that warm feeling again. The warm glow of the studio lamps serves as a reminder that the technical session has officially concluded. Zhiyi finally turns off the camera, her decorated phone case reflecting the end of their workday. Stepping out into the city, Zhiyi leads the way while a nervous Aexu follows closely behind. Suddenly, Aexu's eyes widen as she spots a shop that might provide the liquid courage she needs. The storefront proudly advertises a unique blend of alcoholic milk tea and juice. Inside, the staff stays busy preparing a custom order with a surprisingly high concentration of alcohol. The bar stands as a vibrant landmark, offering a quick escape for those looking to unwind. Later at the pool, Aexu hides her face, worried that her plan to get tipsy is backfiring by making her feel more alert. Her internal intoxication meter fluctuates wildly as she tries to commit to her bold new persona. She carefully leans against Zhiyi, putting on a convincing performance of being slightly dazed from the drink. Zhiyi radiates pure joy, completely caught up in the fun of their poolside relaxation. Aexu remains silent, her focus sharpening on the technical details of her poolside attire. She remembers how Zhiyi used to look at her with such intense, professional admiration. Memories of their past outings flood back, reminding her of Zhiyi's magnetic and energetic personality. A montage of their shared history flashes through her mind, highlighting every moment of growth they've shared. Aexu's internal processing finally hits 100%, causing her gaze to sharpen with a newfound, cosmic determination. Zhiyi looks on with a mix of surprise and curiosity, wondering what has sparked this sudden change in her partner's behavior. A soft smile reveals the genuine warmth Aexu feels as she reflects on what it truly means to care for someone. Zhiyi floats in the pool, questioning if she lacks feminine appeal compared to her peers. She imagines Aexu as a pure, platonic angel completely devoid of worldly desires. Diving in to help, Zhiyi's eyes widen as she spots her friend beneath the surface. Seeing Aexu's ethereal beauty underwater causes Zhiyi's brain to completely short-circuit. Aexu reveals her playful side, admitting the emergency was just a clever prank. Air bubbles break the surface as the pair finally emerges from the water. Back on the deck, Zhiyi struggles to stay calm while tending to her friend. Internally, Zhiyi panics over her impulsive first aid attempt, fearing she's lost her mind. Aexu notices the flush on Zhiyi's face and watches her reaction closely. Realizing she's been toyed with yet again, Zhiyi's head begins to spin in confusion. Determined to regain control, Zhiyi prepares for the next phase of their professional photoshoot. However, seeing Aexu in a grand white gown immediately shatters her resolve. The sheer visual impact causes Zhiyi's mental systems to suffer a total crash. Standing together in matching white dresses, the professional shoot feels far too much like a real wedding. Overwhelmed by the implications, Zhiyi collapses on the floor in a daze. Night settles over the quiet city as the long day finally comes to an end. Back at home, Zhiyi reviews the stunning photographs they captured during the session. Frustrated by her own emotions, she tosses the prints onto her bed. She sprawls out in exhaustion, feeling completely defeated by Aexu's teasing. Hiding under her pillow, she worries about becoming the laughingstock of the next party. Succumbing to her embarrassment, she lies motionless and wishes for the floor to swallow her. A sudden notification light from her phone breaks the silence of the room. She discovers an online post showing her and Chloe together at a local bar. A mysterious observer monitors the viral post, hiding their identity behind the glowing screen. The duo arrives at a cozy pet cafe to gather visual references for their next project. Ixu leads the way inside while a hesitant Zhiyi suggests a tactical retreat. Ixu quickly dismisses the fear by playfully squishing her assistant's cheeks. Zhiyi's imagination runs wild with hilarious concerns about handling liquid cats. She immediately feels the intense weight of dozens of feline eyes tracking her every move. The sheer number of cats in the room leaves Zhiyi completely paralyzed with social anxiety. Startled by the attention, she loses her footing and begins to stumble backward. A poorly timed trip sends her falling onto the seating area. Every cat in the vicinity suddenly swarms her, seeking warmth and affection. Ixu watches the chaotic scene, amused by how popular her senior has become. Zhiyi eventually relaxes, using toys to keep her new furry fans entertained. She shares a genuine, heartwarming smile while bonding with the pets. Seeing the focus shift, Ixu begins to feel neglected by the busy assistant. Desperate for attention, the designer makes a sudden, dramatic move to intervene. Ixu clings to Zhiyi, demanding to be noticed alongside the cats. The unexpected proximity sends Zhiyi into an absolute state of internal panic. Backing away, Zhiyi accidentally slams into a nearby supply shelf. The impact dislodges a container of catnip directly onto her head. The aroma of the herbs instantly sends the nearby cats into a sensory frenzy. Zhiyi is overwhelmed as the feline mob dives for the spilled catnip. Ixu takes control, grabbing Zhiyi's hands to lead her toward the restroom. Professionalism takes over as Ixu insists on cleaning the mess immediately. She offers a reassuring smile, explaining the need to avoid further feline attacks. Ixu focuses intently on the task, blowing stray powder off Zhiyi's shirt. The meticulous cleaning process continues as Zhiyi tries to maintain her composure. Ixu maintains a close proximity, while explaining the cat's natural instincts. A stray tail flickers in the background, mirroring the playful mood of the room. To lighten the atmosphere, Ixu playfully dons a pair of cat ears. She leans into the theme, teasing Zhiyi with a feline-inspired pose. The designer reaches out, inviting Zhiyi to join in on the lighthearted fun. Zhiyi's overactive imagination briefly visualizes a dramatic, close-up encounter. Snapping back to reality, Ixu cheerily announces that the cleanup is finished. Zhiyi remains frozen in shock, her brain short-circuiting from the intensity. A legendary scream echoes through the cafe, leaving patrons and pets baffled. Zhiyi stares intensely at her phone screen, paralyzed by a photo of two people sharing a suspiciously close moment. The image captures Ixu and a stunning blonde woman leaning in together over matching drinks, radiating an undeniable sense of intimacy. Scrolling further, Zhiyi discovers a solo shot of the woman, realizing this must be the upperclassman Chloe, who looked after Ixu during her years abroad. The weight of jealousy hits like a physical blow, sending Zhiyi into a frantic spiral as she thrashes against her pillows in a fit of regret. She sits bolt upright, arms flailing as she scolds herself for being so embarrassingly melodramatic over a simple social media post. Exhausted by her own emotions, she tightly curls into a ball under the covers, determined to just sleep and forget everything she saw. However, her eyes snap wide open in the dark as her mind fixates on the one thing she's never experienced: the inside of a bar. Crouched under her blanket like a secret agent, she researches the venue and discovers Sapphire is an exclusive cocktail lounge specifically for women. Her investigation leads her directly to the building, though she makes a less-than-graceful entrance by tripping onto the pavement outside. Determined to remain anonymous, she adjusts her surgical mask and pulls her cap low to hide her face from any prying eyes. She stands before the entrance, clutching her phone and questioning her own sanity for actually showing up to investigate. Steeling her nerves, she pushes the door open, telling herself this is merely a professional reconnaissance mission to gather material. A hostess approaches to offer a seat, but Zhiyi is already focused on scanning the room for a specific head of blonde hair. Her heart sinks the moment she spots Ixu across the room, looking effortlessly elegant while sipping from a martini glass. Before the hostess can even finish her greeting, Zhiyi vanishes into the shadows, leaving the poor staff member blinking at thin air. Hiding behind a decorative pillar, she gasps for air while her inner monologue reports that the enemy has not yet detected her presence. She maintains a safe distance, frustrated that the ambient noise of the bar prevents her from eavesdropping on the conversation. Crouching low to the floor, she has a brief moment of clarity, wondering why on earth she is acting like a professional stalker. Despite the shame, she can't look away, meticulously observing Ixu's every movement to gauge her current mood. She notes the subtle shift in Ixu's expression when the topic turns to gossip or someone she finds distasteful. Even while listening politely, Ixu maintains a certain poised distance that Zhiyi finds fascinating and intimidating. Watching her from the shadows, Zhiyi realizes that Ixu's relaxed demeanor here is a world away from the intense energy she displays at work. Her focus shifts to Chloe, whose refined beauty and cool aura make her seem like a character from a high-end fashion magazine. Zhiyi shrinks back, admitting to herself that this elegant woman is exactly the type of person who makes her feel most insecure. Seeing the two women clink their glasses in a toast, Zhiyi feels the heavy burden of a history she isn't a part of. The social pressure becomes too much to bear, and she clutches her chest, deciding it's finally time to retreat before she's spotted. When Ixu stands up to head toward the restroom, Zhiyi sees a golden opportunity to make a break for the exit. She bolts toward the door, unaware that her familiar silhouette has already caught Axu's sharp, observant eyes. Just as she thinks she's home free, a stranger in a blue shirt suddenly lunges forward and grabs Zhiyi in a desperate embrace. From across the room, Axu watches the bizarre scene unfold with a look of pure confusion and rising curiosity. Zhiyi freezes in total shock, staring down at the young girl who is currently clinging to her like a lifeline. The girl looks up with big, watery eyes, whispering a frantic plea for Zhiyi to help cover her bill since her phone died. Zhiyi's eyes go wide behind her glasses as she realizes her stealth mission has just spiraled into a public disaster. Zhiyi's imagination runs wild with visions of being lured into a dangerous criminal trap, leaving her paralyzed with fear. Reality is just as stressful as the stranger clings to her arm, begging for financial help in the middle of the lounge. The girl's eyes well up as she desperately offers her contact info, hoping Zhiyi will cover her mounting bill. Glancing over her shoulder, the stranger notices a nearby table, heightening the tension of the public spectacle. Zhiyi tries to make a break for it, her mind racing with frantic plans to escape before her identity is compromised. In her clumsy haste to retreat, she accidentally collides with a nearby server, triggering a disastrous chain reaction. A wine glass slips from a tray, shattering against the floor in a sharp, echoing crash. Red wine stains a woman's expensive dress, drawing the immediate, angry attention of everyone in the vicinity. Zhiyi immediately bows in a panic, offering frantic apologies for the accidental wardrobe malfunction. The situation takes a turn for the worse when Axu steps forward, claiming she knows the person involved in the commotion. With effortless grace, Axu pulls out her phone and offers to handle the dry cleaning costs and the entire tab. The victim is instantly pacified by Axu's generosity, even asking to exchange contact info with her elegant savior. Hidden behind her mask, Zhiyi feels a wave of inadequacy while comparing her current state to Axu's natural charisma. She imagines herself being metaphorically kicked away by the massive gap in their social standing and confidence. Zhiyi struggles to find a way to maintain her dignity while remaining completely anonymous under her heavy disguise. Axu stands tall and asks the pair directly why they've come to this bar and who they are with. A cold shiver runs down Zhiyi's spine as she senses a terrible misunderstanding is about to unfold. Seizing the opportunity to save herself, the stranger grabs Zhiyi and loudly claims they came here to drink together. Chloe finally returns to the table, looking radiant and wondering what all the commotion is about. Axu introduces the newcomers to Chloe, framing the interaction as a professional courtesy toward a friend. Chloe's sharp gaze locks onto the disguised Zhiyi, scanning her with an intense and curious focus. A playful, knowing smile spreads across Chloe's face as she repeats the word girlfriend back to them. The sheer weight of the lie causes Zhiyi's internal spirit to crumble in complete and total defeat. The stranger whispers a final, desperate plea for Zhiyi to keep up the charade just for this one important moment. Chloe leans in closer, adding an intimidating layer of pressure to the already suffocating atmosphere. Realizing that admitting the lie is the only way to protect her true name, Zhiyi prepares to commit to the role. With a heavy heart and a massive sense of guilt, Zhiyi finally confirms the false relationship out loud. Chloe's expression turns wickedly cheerful as she suggests they all sit down for a round of games to bond. Zhiyi realizes she has walked straight into a social trap, and the night is only going to get more terrifying from here.